cycles. Trade cycles. Okay. So in the last class we have discussed the issue of inflation as well as unemployment. So a last thing that I would like to discuss with you, how can inflation be controlled? How inflation can be controlled? We have discussed the causes of inflation, why do inflation takes place. We have also discussed the type of inflation. We have discussed the relationship that exists between rate of inflation and rate of unemployment, which is basically reflected in the Phillips curve. Phillips curve states to be downward sloping, but critics like Tobin, Friedman, they did not accept the downward sloping Phillips curve. Rather, they say that Phillips curve, the downward sloping Phillips curve that shows inverse relationship between rate of unemployment and rate of inflation, is found to be in the short run only. So no such trade-off between inflation and unemployment is found in the long run. So this makes the Phillips curve, the long run Phillips curve, vertical, not downward sloping. So the last bit about inflation, how can it be controlled? What are the policy measures that the government can take, the government pursues to check inflation? We have discussed its effects. We have shown that inflation is economically harmful. If the rate of inflation is very high, if we have hyperinflation, then it would adversely affect savings, investment, finally income and output. This is because very high price rise, which we call hyperinflation, reduces the purchasing power. Basically, the purchasing power of the low income people, the low income group, is adversely affected due to hyperinflation. So that they are able to save less. Their saving capacity will be less. So saving means less investment. And investment, as we know, is a major factor behind our output, employment, and income. So since inflation adversely affect investment, national income, output, and employment, they are also adversely affected. That's why inflation is said to be economically harmful, and it is socially unjust. Socially unjust means it redistributes money income in favor of the rich. So that means inflation brings about a redistribution of national income and wealth, in which the rich people, the businessmen, the traders, the producers, they get higher income, higher and higher income. On the contrary, okay. So how can then the last thing that we will discuss before discussing trade cycles, how we can control inflation, how the government tries to reduce the rate of inflation, what are the policy measures it undertakes to control inflation. Basically, there are two policy measures undertaken by the government to control inflation. One is monetary policy and the other is fiscal policy. These are the two basic weapons with the government, with the central bank to fight inflation. There are also other measures which are also helpful, but we will discuss something about monetary policy and fiscal policy. Naturally, what is monetary policy? The monetary policy means those policy measures which aim at regulating money and credit supply into different channels. So those policy measures which aim at controlling the inflow of money and credit into desired sectors, both money and credit. Money means legal tender money and credit means credit money or bank money. So the supply of money is affected when the government pursue monetary policy. So depending on the situation, whether there is inflation or depression or deflation, government follows different type of monetary policy and the other policy of bank rate. What are there are also different weapons under the category of monetary policy. One is bank rate policy, bank rate operation, and we have discussed the point that bank rate is simply defined as the rate at which the central bank make advances to the commercial banks. So it is related to other rate of interest. So when the bank rate is increased, particularly during inflation, the commercial banks find their loans from the central bank costlier because they have to pay more interest. As a result, they also charge higher rate of interest from the loans, from the money lent to the common man, to the general people. As a result, bank rate is helpful in reducing inflationary rate. So another thing, another weapon is uh, so I think
Sir,
you have some basic idea about quantitative credit control measures and qualitative credit control measures. So monetary
sir,
policy, okay,
sorry to
go.
interrupt you. Sir, ଆପଣ କାଲି କହିଥିଲେ reciprocal hypothesis ପଢିବ ବୋଲି।
Rational expectation hypothesis ପଢିବା
Yes,
last
sir.
କୁ ପଢିବା
ଆଚ୍ଛା,
ତାପରେ policy ଆଉ
okay, sir.
okay.
Okay, sir.
So bank rate is one of the major weapon under the category of monetary policy. Next one is the open market operation. Open market operation means open market sale and purchase of government securities by the central bank in order to affect the purchasing power in the hands of the people, in the hands of the banks as well. So normally when there is inflation, people has more purchasing power in their hands. Banks have sufficient reserves so that with the help of which they are able to create more and more loans. As a result, when more credit is created out of the banking system by the commercial banks, inflationary rate or inflationary price rise becomes higher. So naturally, the government or the central bank would like to control the credit creating capacity of the commercial banks as well. So in order to control the purchasing power with the people as well as the credit creating capacity of the commercial banks, the central bank sell government securities in the open market during inflation. So when there is inflation, the government Reserve Bank in case of India sell government securities to the general public, to the banks and other non-banking financial intermediaries in the open market. So when the people, the general public as well as the financial institutions, they purchase government bonds they have to make payment. So when people as well as banking institutions, non-banking financial intermediaries, they purchase government bonds, they have to make payment. So this way, purchasing power is diverted from the public, from the banking institutions, as well as non-banking intermediaries to the government, to the central bank. So naturally, when their purchasing power is reduced, the credit creating capacity of the commercial banks is reduced. The aggregate effective demand is also reduced because of low purchasing power in the hands of the public. So during inflation, government sells what is called the government securities. The central bank sells government securities in the open market, and during depression, the opposite happens. During depression, when people have less purchasing power in their hands, when commercial banks have less reserves, less cash reserves, the central bank would like to supply more funds to the banking institutions, as well as it would like to have more purchasing power with the public. So for that matter, the central bank purchases government securities in the open market. Purchases means those who have uh, purchased, the
Sir,
people at the
can
banks,
I ask you a
they,
question?
go.
Sir, if we consider we will face COVID-19 type phenomenon again, the government will how will the government help us
Mm,
economically?
uh, so COVID type of situation um, creates a depressionary situation in the economy. So what happened during COVID-19? Industries were closed, workers are thrown out of employment. When there were lockout, what happened? The farmers are not able to supply, sell their produce. So lockout ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କଣ ହେଲା କୋଭିଡ ସମୟରେ ଯୋଉ ଦିଟା ସେ ଆଁ?
Love.
ଗୋଟେ ତ ଲକଆଉଟ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କଣ? ଆଁ?
ଲକଡାଉନ ଆଉ ସଟଡାଉନ ହେଲା ସାର୍।
ହଁ ହଁ ଲକଆଉଟ ମୁଁ କହୁଛି। So ଲକଡାଉନ ଦି ପ୍ରକାର ନା ସଟଡାଉନ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କଣ?
ଲକଡାଉନ ସଟଡାଉନ। ସଟଡାଉନ ରେ ପୁରାପୁରି ବନ୍ଦ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ, ଆଉ ଲକଡାଉନ ରେ କେବଳ କିଛି କିଛି ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ଅନୁମତି ମିଳିଥିଲା ଯୋଉମାନେ କାମ କରୁଥିଲେ ସରକାରୀ।
So the producers, the farmers, especially the farmers, they are unable to sell their produce in the market. Shops were closed.
Lockdown.
People were, people were forced to remain indoors. So as a result of which, basically, the wage earners, they are unable to get income. This is
Lockdown.
uh, so so basically COVID-19 has created a depressionary type of situation.
ଆଉ ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ ହେଲା
Uh,
ସାର୍ ସେ ସମୟରେ ଗଭର୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ସାର୍ କେମିତି ହେଲ୍ପ କଲା ଆମକୁ?
ଆଚ୍ଛା ମୁଁ କହୁଛି ସେ ଗଭର୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ସେଇଠି କଣ କରିବ ନା ଗଭର୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ସେଇଠି ସବୁ ତ ସଟଡାଉନ ଯୋଉ ହେଇଗଲା ସେଇଠି ଇଣ୍ଡଷ୍ଟ୍ରି କ୍ଲୋଜ, ସବୁ ଦୋକାନ ବଜାର ବନ୍ଦ ହେଇଗଲା, ଲୋକମାନେ ଗାଡି ମଟର ବନ୍ଦ, ଟ୍ରେନ ବନ୍ଦ, ସବୁ ବନ୍ଦ ହେଇଗଲା। ଲୋକ ସବୁ ଚାଲିକିରି ହଜାର ହଜାର କିଲୋମିଟର ବାଟ ଆସିଗଲା ଦେଖିଲେ। ଛୋଟ ପିଲାଙ୍କୁ ଟଲିରେ ବସେଇକିରି ଲୋକ ରାସ୍ତାରେ ଚାଲି ଚାଲି ଆସିଲେ, ଗାଡି ମଟର ବସ୍ ସବୁ ବନ୍ଦ ହେଇଗଲା, ନାଇଁ କି? ସେଇ କେସରେ କଣ
ହଁ
ହେଲା,
ସାର୍।
ଗଭର୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ କେମିତି ହେଲ୍ପ କଲା ନା ଲକଡାଉନ ସଟଡାଉନ ପରେ ଗଭର୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଚାହିଁଲା ଯେ ସବୁ ଦୋକାନ ବଜାର ଏ ସବୁ ଇଣ୍ଡଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଏଗୁଡା ସବୁ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହଉ। ସେ କେସରେ ଆହୁରି ଗୋଟେ କଥା ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ହେଲା, ଯୋଉ ଏଟିଏମ ରୁ ୱିଥଡ୍ରଆଲ ଏସବୁ କମିଗଲା। ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ କହିଲା ଏଟିଏମ ରୁ ଟଙ୍କା 4,000 ନା କେତେ 2,000 ଉଠେଇ ପାରିବେ, ତାପରେ ସେଟାକୁ 4,000 କୁ ଉଠେଇଲା, ନାଇଁ କି?
ସେଇଟା ସାର୍ ଡିମନିଟାଇଜେସନ ପିରିୟଡ ର
ସେଇ
during
ସମୟ
2016 demonetization, sir, where
ସେପ୍ଟେମ୍ବର
the
16
government imposed the demonetization. Then that was the rule that you only draw
ହଁ
maximum amount of 2,000 only.
ହଁ
And due to demonetization also, it's a one kind of inflation. It reduces inflation in economy. And during that COVID period also, government created an emergency fund that is called as PM Care Fund, and which was banned audit, and its main aim was to help the industries and these people with a large amount of money who needed that. That's why PM Care Fund was also created.
So government has financially helped the industries. It has also incentivized the banks as well, so that a depressionary tendency will not develop in the economy. So that was um, the monetary policy, fiscal policy. These are not very much affected during COVID-19.
सर
And during,
डोनेशन भी ଆସିଥିଲା।
huh? Puଅ ପିଲେ
ଡୋନେ
କଣ? Huh?
सर डोनेशन ବି ବହୁତ ମିଳିଥିଲା ନା COVID-19 ଟାଇମ ରେ।
Donation का गवर्नमेंट को?
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
Okay. गवर्नमेंट को जो
Another sector was also during that COVID. Another opportunity was there, which because of that we are now also getting benefited. Because of that, social media was there, many YouTubers also were created, those who are generating income for that, and also those who viewed also they got. So that is new job opportunities were also created, though other side we are seeing that there was many industries were closed. Still then, people being at home, they also opened up this social media interactions, and a lot of income was generated from the Amazon and YouTube and Facebook, etc. And the government also mainly motivated the digital payments, which reflected our volume of transactions nowadays, and there is no chance of concealing their incomes, which our economy, the volume of transactions in our economy is much more transparent now.
So this is called digitization, and this process was started during the demonetization period, when 2000 when earlier 1,000 rupee notes were in circulation, and in government has demanded, government has issued a circular that in order to arrest the black money, in order to close down the financial link with the terrorist, the extremist activities, we are going down to demonetize. So as a result, 1,000 rupee notes were demonetized. But what happened? Government has allowed a very extensive time period for the people, those especially those people who have large amount of these 1,000 rupee notes, especially the black money. Government has claimed that black money constitute a sizable portion of national income. So in addition to controlling terror funding, government is able to, or government will try to uh, close down the menace of black money. But what happened? 99% of the demonetized notes, they return to the banking system. 99%. So government has allowed 3 months So the rich people who have sufficient amount of these large volume of 1000 rupee notes, they employed poor people to stand in queues to deposit their excess money, the black money, to turn them into white.
ସାର୍
ତେଣୁ ବଡ ବଡ ଧନୀ ଲୋକ ସବୁ ଏମିତି 100 200 ଗରିବ ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ 500 ଟଙ୍କା ଲେଖା ଦେଇକିରି ଆଣିକି ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କରେ ଠିଆ କରେଇଲେ ଯେ ସେଟାକୁ କନଭର୍ଟ କରିଦେଲେ
ସାର୍
ସେଇ ଟଙ୍କା ସବୁ। ତେଣୁ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଯଦି 15 ଦିନ ଟାଇମ
ସାର୍
ଦେଇଥାନ୍ତା,
ସାର୍
ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ
ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ
କହିଥାନ୍ତା।
ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଡାଇରେକ୍ସନ ଟପିକ ରେ ପଳେଇଲେ। ସାର୍ ମୁଁ
ହୁଁ,
ପଚାରିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଥିଲି ଯେ ଗଭର୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଯୋଉ କରୋନା ହେଲା ତାପରେ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ କେମିତି ହେଲ୍ପ କଲା ଯେ ସେ ଯୋଉ କରୋନାରେ ଯୋଉ ଡିପ୍ରେସନ ହେଇଥିଲା ସେଇଟାରୁ କେମିତି ଓଭରକମ କରେଇଲା ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ, କଣ ପାଇଁ ନା ସେଥିରେ ତ ଜବ ନଥିଲା, ଅନଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ ବଢି ଯାଇଥିଲା। ହେଲେ ଅନଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ ବଢିଯିବା ଯୋଗୁ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ବଣ୍ଡ ସେୟାର ସିକ୍ୟୁରିଟି କିଛି ନଥିଲା, ତ ସେଇଠି ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରକାର ଅନଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ ର ମାତ୍ରା ବଢି ଯାଇଥିଲା। ସେଇଟାକୁ ସେ କେମିତି କମେଇଲା ଆଉ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ସେ କଣ ଏମିତି ଯୋଗେଇଲା ଯେ ଲୋକମାନେ ସେ ଯୋଉ କ୍ରାଇସିସ କୁ ନ ଯାଇକି ଆମେ ଓଭରକମ କରିଗଲେ ସେ ପିରିୟଡ ଟାକୁ।
ସେଇ ସମୟରେ କଣ ହେଲା ଜଷ୍ଟ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ when they closed down, the lockdown and shutdown were lifted, then normalcy started coming into the economy. This was the fact. So not much direct help was given by the government. Direct help କିଛି ନାହିଁ। ସେଇଠି industries were started normally, because this is not a type of depressionary situation like the Great Depression of 1930s or the US recession of 2008. So natural, when lockdown was lifted, when shutdown was lifted, then normalcy started coming.
ସାର୍ ତାହେଲେ ବେଙ୍ଗଲ ଫାମିନାଇନ୍ ବି ଗୋଟେ ଥର ହେଇଥିଲା ଯୋଉଠି ଇଣ୍ଡିଆର ଗୋଟେ ପାର୍ଟ କୁ ଖାଇବା ମିଳୁନଥିଲା, ସେଇ ଥର ଡିପ୍ରେସନ ଟାଇପ ର ସିଚୁଏସନ କୁ ଆମେ ଯାଇଥିଲେ,
ନା
ତ
ନା ନା
ସେଇଠୁ କେମିତି ଓଭରକମ କଲେ?
ନା ସେଇଟା ଡିପ୍ରେସନ ନୁହଁ, ବେଙ୍ଗଲ ଫେମିନ୍। ଏଇ ଯେ ବେଙ୍ଗଲ ଫେମିନ୍, or we can talk of Odisha famine of 1866, ନଅଙ୍କ ଦୁର୍ଭିକ୍ଷ ଯୋଉ ଓଡିଶାରେ ହେଇଥିଲା। So it is due to that is a loss of crops, famines, loss of crops, lack of uh, monsoon rain led to shortage of crops. There was not much transport facility was not good,
ସାର୍
and
ସାର୍ ତାହେଲେ ତ ଆମେ ଯୋଉ ଯେହେତୁ ଏଗ୍ରିକଲଚରରୁ ଆମେ 50% ଆମର ଇକୋନୋମି ଏଗ୍ରିକଲଚର ଉପରେ ଡିପେଣ୍ଡେଣ୍ଟ ଅଛି ବୋଲି ଆମେ ଯେହେତୁ ପଢୁଛେ, ତାହେଲେ ଯଦି ଏଗ୍ରିକଲଚରରୁ ସେ ସମୟରେ ଯଦି କିଛି ବି ଇନକମ ମାନେ ଜେନେରେଟ ହେଇନି, ତାହେଲେ ଲୋକ କେମିତି ଚଳିଲେ ସେ ଟାଇମ ଯଦି ଗଭର୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ହେଲ୍ପ କରିନି? ନହେଲେ ଇକୋନୋମି ସେଇଠି ଯୋଉ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ ଇକୋନୋମି କ୍ରାଇସିସ ହବାର ଚାନ୍ସେସ ଅଛି, କଣ ପାଇଁ ନା ଏଗ୍ରିକଲଚର ତ ଟୋଟାଲି ବନ୍ଦ ହେଇଗଲା ଯେହେତୁ କ୍ରପସ ହିଁ ଜେନେରେଟ ହେଇପାରିଲାନି।
କୋଉ ସମୟରେ ଏଇ
ସାର୍
ବେଙ୍ଗଲ
ବେଙ୍ଗଲ
ଫେମିନ୍?
ଫେମିନାଇନ୍ କୁହନ୍ତୁ, ଓଡିଶା ଫେମିନାଇନ୍ କୁହନ୍ତୁ, ଏ ଟାଇମ ରେ ଯେହେତୁ କଣ ହଉଛି କି ଆମେ ଯେହେତୁ ଦେଖିଲେ ଯେ ଏଗ୍ରିକଲଚର ଠିକ ଭାବରେ ହେଇପାରିଲାନି, ତ ଏଗ୍ରିକଲଚର ଉପରେ ତ ଅଧା ଇକୋନୋମି ପୁରା ଡିପେଣ୍ଡେଣ୍ଟ ଥାଉଛି ନା।
ସେଇ ତ ବହୁତ ଲକ୍ଷ ଲକ୍ଷ ଲୋକ ମରିଗଲେ ସେ ସମୟରେ ଖାଇବାକୁ ନ ପାଇକି। ତେଣୁ ଯୋଉ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସପୋର୍ଟ ଫ୍ୟାସିଲିଟି ୱାଜ ନଟ୍ ଗୁଡ୍, and food government was unable to mobilize food stuffs to the people. Government has a wrong notion that sufficient amount of food grain is there in Odisha. As a result, normally transport facility was not good. It takes a long time for food grain to come from say Calcutta to Odisha. That's why so hundreds of thousands of people perished. So that was the situation. Not that there was a food crisis. So at that time, food grain production was not up to the standard as we have now. So due to excessive dependence on rainwaters, on monsoon rains, agricultural production was adversely affected every now and then. Maybe we have good crop 1 year, but either we have food shortage or we have famine type of situation, So these were the situation during the pre-independence era. So now the situation has come under control. We have large buffer stock through FCI. So government is supplying rice, wheat through the public distribution system. So normally, if rice and wheat are available with the people, if cereals and pulses are available with the people, then crisis like Bengal famine or Nonka Durvikya, so they would not come to us. ଆଜିକାଲି ଆଉ ସେ ଭୟ ନାହିଁ ହେଲା କାହିଁକିନା ଆମର ସଫିସିଏଣ୍ଟ ବଫର ଷ୍ଟକ୍ ଅଛି ଫୁଡ ଷ୍ଟକ୍ available ଅଛି India is now donating food grains to other countries but at that time India was importing third grade wheat from the USA through PL 480 agreement. So government was forced to make an agreement with the United States which is known as PL 480 under which US government has supplied wheat to India. But these wheat were found to be of third grade. These wheat are not even up to the third grade means they were mostly used for fodder. ସେମାନଙ୍କର ଯୋଉଟା ଗୋ ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଗୋରୁ ଗାଈ ଖାଇବା ପାଇଁ ଯୋଉ ଗହମ ୟୁଜ ହଉଥିଲା ସେଗୁଡାକୁ ସେ ଭାରତକୁ ଦେଲେ ଆଉ so that led to the adoption of green revolution new agricultural strategy in the 1960s ତେଣୁ ସେଇ ଯୋଉ ଗହମ ଆମେ ଥାର୍ଡ ଗ୍ରେଡ ର ଗହମ ଆଣିଲେ ସେଇଥି ଯୋଗୁ ଆମକୁ ଇନ୍ଦିରା ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କ ସମୟରେ ଆସିଲା ଗ୍ରୀନ ରିଭଲ୍ୟୁସନ ଆରମ୍ଭ କଲେ ସେ ଓକେ ସୋ ଆମେ ଏବେ ଆସିବା ଟପିକ କି so first one is bank rate second one is open market operation third one is reserve requirements means when commercial banks advance loans to the public they maintain some reserves suppose a person has gone to the bank with some amount of gold ornaments or insurance policy or fixed deposit receipt and he has asked the bank to give or sanction loans. So if he has deposited gold worth of 1 lakh rupee, bank will not advance 1 lakh rupee to him as loans. It will keep some reserves, maybe 20%. The commercial bank will maybe advance 80,000 rupee to that person who has deposited gold worth of 1 lakh rupee. So margin requirements, this is known as margin requirements. Similarly, if a person wants to
So
make
the bank
car,
will provide 80,000 rupees to the person as loan.
yes. Similarly, if a person wants to buy a car of 5 lakh rupee, the bank will ask the person to deposit 10% with the bank, then the rest will be made available to the seller by way of loans. So this is a margin money. So during inflation, the central bank advises the commercial bank to increase the margin money. So during inflation, margin money is increased so that the borrowers, the people who go to the bank to make loans, they are asked to deposit larger amount of money as a margin money. So if earlier the people were asked to deposit 10% of the loan they want, now they are asked to deposit 20%. ଯଦି ଜଣେ ଲକ୍ଷେ ଟଙ୍କାର ଲୋନ୍ ଚାହୁଁଛି ताकू आगुरु 10% 10,000 डिपोजिट करियो कह होतला बाकी 90,000 से को लोन दिया होतला इन्फ्लेशन समय बैंक कौन कहबो सेटा को 20% कर दबो ता माने 20,000 टंका मार्जिन मनी डिपोजिट कले 80,000 टंका ताकू लोन मिलियो so naturally people with low income find it very difficult to deposit the margin money so they were dissuaded to take loans this is margin requirement then ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ମୁଁ କହୁଥିଲି ଯେଟା ପିଲେ କ୍ୱାଲିଟେଟିଭ କଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଲ ମେଜର୍ସ ଆଉ କ୍ୱାଣ୍ଟିଟେଟିଭ ଏଗୁଡା ସବୁ କ୍ୱାଣ୍ଟିଟେଟିଭ କଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଲ ମେଜର୍ସ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ସିଲେକ୍ଟିଭ କଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଲ ମେଜର ଅଛି ସିଲେକ୍ଟିଭ କ୍ରେଡିଟ କଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଲ ମେଜର୍ସ ଆର୍ those measures which are selective they affect specific group they affect specific sector not all the sectors are equally affected जोटा आमे कहिबा हमर जो रहिछि मे बी दी फार्मर्स आर आमे गोटा फॉर एग्जांपल मु कहिबी एग्रीकल्चरल पर्पस पई रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट लोअर इंडस्ट्रियल पर्पस पे जो लोन बैंक माने दियंती सेटा हायर इंटरेस्ट रेट चार्ज करा जाय एटा होची हमर डिफरेंशियल इंटरेस्ट रेट ए पॉलिसी को हमें कहूचे एटा सिलेक्टिव क्रेडिट कंट्रोल में मेजर गोटे so you are aware about all these things we will not spend much of our time on that so another policy is the fiscal policy fiscal policy means policies of the government relating to fisc or treasury basically we have a public fiscal policy mainly consists of taxation and public expenditure policies. So by using the taxation policy and public expenditure policy, the government tried to achieve certain objectives like full employment, price stability, economic growth, exchange stability. These are the major policy objectives. And government tries to achieve these objectives either by following monetary policy or fiscal policy. So naturally, you must have an idea that during inflation, when when people have large purchasing power with them or in their hands, the tax rate is increased. Inflation समय जेतेବେଳେ ଲୋକଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ପ୍ରଚୁର ପଇସା ଥାଏ एग्रीगेट डिमांड अधिका थाए से समय रे कमर्शियल बैंक मानकू बैंक हमर रिजर्व बैंक बा सेंट्रल बैंक ऑर्डर दबो जे से तो मार्जिन मनी कथा मु कहि देउची एक्चुअली under the fiscal policy the government increases the tax rate it may impose new taxes in order to reduce the excess demand and during depression or the inverse or opposite happens during depression when people have less purchasing power in their hands the tax rate is reduced and public expenditure is increased so public expenditure and tax they are two opposite measures fiscal measures so during inflation government increases the tax rate but reduce public expenditure in unnecessary lines those expenditure which are not very much essential these expenditures are reduced but during depression taxation rate are reduced while public expenditure is increased so these are the
Sir, can I ask a question? Sir, जो टैक्स इम्प्लीमेंट होची को गुड्स ऊपर केतिकी टैक्स रहिबो सेडा का ऊपर एक्चुअली डिपेंड करछ एबे गोटे गुड्स अछि गोल्ड अछि धरन हंदु तार प्राइस ता बढ़िबो ना कमिबो सेडा का ऊपर डिसाइड होची का नै की डिसाइड होची टैक्स बढ़िबो ना कमिबो
gold rate is controlled
ନାଇଁ ସାର୍
by the
ଗୋଲ୍ଡ ରେ ଯୋଉ ଟେକ୍ସ ସେଟା ଆପ୍ଲାଏ ହବ ସେଇଟା ବଢିବ ନା କମିବ ସେଇଟା କାହାକୁ ନେଇକି ଡିସାଇଡ୍ ହଉଛି?
So now the most of the indirect taxes, they are now merged under the GST, goods and services tax. So there are three tax GST rates. On some goods it is 8%, on some goods it is 12%, on some goods it is 21%. So there is a GST council. So now under the GST council decides how much GST will be imposed on gold, how much GST rate will be imposed on paper, how much GST will be imposed on other goods like that. The GST council decides. Okay. ତେଣୁ
ଓକେ ସାର୍।
ଆଗରୁ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ପ୍ରକାର ଇନଡାଇରେକ୍ଟ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ଥିଲା, ସେଲ୍ସ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ଥିଲା, ଏକ୍ସାଇଜ ଡ୍ୟୁଟି ଥିଲା, ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ ଆଡେଡ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ କରାହେଇଥିଲା। So now all these taxes they are merged, they are replaced by the GST, goods and services tax. So the tax rate under GST is decided by the GST council. Okay. ହେଲା ଆଉ କ'ଣ ଅଛି ହେଲେ? So then we will discuss the rational expectations hypothesis. So rational expectation hypothesis simply says that those policy measures, those monetary and fiscal policy measures will be successful which are not anticipated by the people, which are not exactly correctly expected by the people. But if the people correctly anticipate that such a policy measure is going to take place by the government, such a decision will be taken by the government in the near future, then people will adjust their activities so that the policy will be ineffective. ଗୋଟେ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଆମେ ନେବା, ଧର ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଚାହୁଁଛି ଯେ ରିସେସନକୁ କଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଲ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ରେଟ୍ ରିଡ୍ୟୁସ କରିବ, କଟ୍ କରିବ। Suppose there is a recessionary trend and the government wants to control recession by cutting taxes and increasing government spending as a part of the fiscal policy. And as a part of the monetary policy, government will increase money supply to fight recession. So monetary policy and fiscal policy, they are jointly used. Most of the people think that the government either use monetary policy or fiscal policy, but that is not the case. These two policy measures are operated by the government side by side. So if there is a recessionary trend, then the government will cut the tax rate. Then suppose the government wants to cut the tax rate, increase government spending and increase money supply. But if the public has learned from their past experience that the government will follow such a policy, fight recession. So if the public, if the general people then correctly anticipate such a move by the government cannot fool the people. As a result, the policy will fail. ଗୋଟେ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ମୁଁ କହୁଛି, ବଜେଟ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆସେ ତା ପୂର୍ବରୁ ପେପରରେ ବାହାରେ ୟା ହବ ତା ହବ, gold rate will fall, tax rate on computers will increase, tax rate on mobile phone will increase. These are the steps, possible steps that would be taken by the government in the budget. ଏଗୁଡ଼ା ସବୁ ପେପରରେ ବାହାରେ, ରେଡିଓ ଟିଭିରେ ମୋବାଇଲରେ ଆସିବ। ତେଣୁ ଲୋକମାନେ ଯଦି ଆଣ୍ଟିସିପେଟ କରିବେ, ସପୋଜ ଦ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଇଜ going to increase the tax rate, So people, if anticipate it correctly, then what will happen? They will adjust their income and expenditure, and the tax measure will fail. So this is the rational expectation hypothesis. So people normally form expectations about government's monetary and fiscal policies, and then they refer to them in making economic decisions. So as a result, by the time the signs of government policies appear, the public has already acted upon them. As
ଆପଣ
a
ଯେମିତି କହିଲେ
result,
କି ବଜେଟରେ sir ବଜେଟ
ବଜେଟରେ ମନେକର ଆମେ ମୋବାଇଲ ଫୋନ ରେଟ୍ ବଢିବ, ଯୋଉ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସଟା ମୋବାଇଲ ଫୋନ ଉପରେ 10% ରୁ 20% ହେଇଯିବ। ଆମେ ଯଦି
ଯେମିତି
ପିଲାମାନେ ବା ଲୋକମାନେ ଯଦି ସେଟାକୁ କରେକ୍ଟଲି ଆଣ୍ଟିସିପେଟ କଲେ, ସେ କଣ କରିବେ?
ଡିକ୍ଲେୟାର
They will purchase the mobile phone for budget is
କରୁଛି
present.
ସେ ବଜେଟ ଏଇ ବର୍ଷର ଆମର
Okay.
ଫେବୃଆରୀ
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ, ଶୁଣିପାରୁଛ ପିଲେ? ହ୍ୟାଲୋ,
ହଁ ସାର୍, ସେ ପଚାରୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ବଜେଟ ତ ନେକ୍ସଟ ଇୟର ପାଇଁ ଆସୁଛି ବୋଲି କହୁଛନ୍ତି।
ବଜେଟ ଯୋଉଟା ଆସେ, ଏଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ମୁଁ
ସାର୍
ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ
ମୁଁ
କହିଲି।
କହୁଛି ସାର୍
ଧର
ବଜେଟ
ଗଭର୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଚାହୁଁ
ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆସୁଛି ବଜେଟ
ଆଁ
ପରେ ବଜେଟ ତ ନେକ୍ସଟ ଇୟର ପାଇଁ ଆସୁଛି, ଯେମିତି ଏବେ ହେଲା
ହୁଁ,
ସାର୍ 7 ଲାଖ
ହଁ ହଁ ହଁ,
ସାର୍ ପ୍ଲିଜ
7
ପ୍ରୋସିଡ୍।
ଲାख 7 ଲାख ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ କଥା କହୁଛି, ଇନକମ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ନା କୋଉ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ?
ସାର୍
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ, ହଁ, so
7 ଲାଖ
rational
ରୁ ସେଇଟା ଯୋଉ
expectation
12 ଲାଖ
hypothesis,
କରିଲେ, ହେଲେ
12
ସେଇଥିରେ
lakh
ତ
75,
ମାନେ
ଆପଣଙ୍କ ଭଏସ ଟା
nobody
କ୍ଲିୟର ଆସୁନି।
expected that 12 will be there.
ହଁ, before the um, budget is presented in the parliament, people were anticipating increase in the income tax slab from the present rate to 7 lakh. But now we have 12 lakh, and there is a standard deduction of 75,000 rupee. So naturally, people with income of 12 lakh 75,000 are now out of the tax range. ଆଚ୍ଛା ପିଲେ, ଶୁଣି ପାରୁଛୁ ମୁଁ ଯାହା କହୁଛି?
ହଁ ସାର୍।
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ, ଓକେ। ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ରେସନାଲ
ସାର୍ ହେଲେ ଯୋଉମାନେ ସାର୍ 12 ଲାକ୍ସ ର ସ୍ଲାବ୍ସ ରୁ ମାନେ କମ ରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି, ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ TDS ପେ କରିବାକୁ ପଡୁନି ଆପଣ କହୁଛନ୍ତି।
ପଡିବ ନାହିଁ।
ହେଲେ ଯଦି ସାର୍ ମାନେ ଏଇଟା ନିର୍ଦ୍ଧାରଣ କେମିତି ହବ ଯେ ସେମାନେ 12 ଲାଖ ରୁ ଅଧିକ କମଉଛନ୍ତି ନା ନାଇଁ ପ୍ରତି ବର୍ଷ ହିସାବ ସେ?
ପ୍ରତିବର୍ଷ ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ଡିକ୍ଲାରେସନ ଦିଆଯାଏ। So every person, every income taxpayer, or every people who make monetary transactions, they have to make a declaration um, at the end of the financial year that what is his or her income, whether his income or her income is taxable or not, how much tax he or she have to pay, how much tax he or she has already deposited. Then before filing the return or at the time of filing the return, he or she must has to deposit the rest amount. So normally people make declaration regarding their income, but nowadays with the banking system open, so the government has every information about the income of the people, how much they have in their bank account, how much interest they earn yearly, how much rent a person receives from the people whom he has rented his house. So everything is now opaque, clear. So जो ଆମର ଆସିଲା banking system एगुड़ा डेभलप हो गला बर्तमान कंप्यूटराइजेशन हला ऑनलाइन ट्रांजैक्शन गुड़ा सब क्लियर आसुची गवर्नमेंट पाखरे सब अच्छी धर मु गोटे एग्जांपल कहूची मु लास्ट ईयर रे मोर इनकम टैक्स जते देदेली काटी देउतली तो टीडीएस काटिदेला बाकी मु कौन कली से बेस कर रिटर्न फाइल करदेली जे रिटर्न फाइल जिते मु कली से देखे आहुरी 24,000 मु इंटरेस्ट पाइछि जो बैंक रे मोर डिपॉजिट अछि मु सेटा को देखुनी पासबुक अपडेट करूची कि केतेबेले जानि परुनी से देखैदेला जे यू हैव अर्नड एन इंटरेस्ट फ्रॉम योर बैंक अकाउंट up to 24,000 something. So that means my income is increased by 24,000. So I have to make online payment of tax at that time before filing the return. Otherwise, we cannot file my return. That is the case. ତେଣୁ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଜାଣିଦେବ ତମେ ତ ଡିକ୍ଲାରେସନ ଯୋଉ ଦବ ଯଦି ବା ଲୁଚେଇଲ ତମେ ଧରା ପଡିବ ଓକେ ଏଇଠି କିଏ ଘର ଭଡା ଦେଇଛି ସେ ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ରେ ଆକାଉଣ୍ଟ ଟ୍ରାଞ୍ଜାକ୍ସନ ନ କରି ଯଦି ଘର ଭଡାଟା ସେ ନିଜେ ହାତକୁ ହାତ ନେଇ ଆସୁଛି ସେ ଠକିଦବ କିନ୍ତୁ ତମେ ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ରେ ଯୋଉ ଫିକ୍ସ ଡିପୋଜିଟ କରିଛ ଯୋଉ ସୁଧ ପାଇଲ ସେଟାକୁ କିଏ ସେ ତ ଆକାଉଣ୍ଟ କୁ ଆସିଲା we cannot cheat the government okay ତେଣୁ ସେଇ ଯୋଉ rational expectation hypothesis ତାର simply I can say that people normally form expectations from their past experience. From their past experience, they know that if this is the situation, if prices are rising high, what steps the government will follow in the either in the budget or in the monetary policy measure or something like that. So if government takes a step immediately or takes a step before people guess, then only that measure will be successful. जोटा मु कहली गवर्नमेंट मानकर लोक माने जानिदेले जे मोबाइल फोन ऊपर टैक्स रेट 20% को बढ़ी जिवो ताले सिटी लोक माने कोन कले बजेट आसीबा पूर्वरु मोबाइल किन देले जे चाहूची आउ 15 दिन पर किनी थांती if they form an expectation that in the coming budget mobile phones are to be taxed at a higher tax rate. So they go to the mobile shop, purchase a mobile phone either by paying direct cash or maybe through higher purchase
Sir.
schemes. नहीं कि तेणु गवर्नमेंट रो जो टैक्स पॉलिसी टा फेल मारला एठी ना नहीं गवर्नमेंट चाहूतला मोबाइल फोन ऊपर मु अधिका टैक्स इंपोज करी अधिका टैक्स रेवेन्यू पाइबी लोक माने ताकू ठकी देले लोक माने जो
କିନ୍ତୁ ସାର୍
रेशनल
ସମସ୍ତେ ସମସ୍ତେ ତ କିଣି ପାରୁନଥିବେ ନା ତ ଠକିବାର ଚାନ୍ସେସ୍ ତ କମିଯିବ।
ଏଇଟା ହଉଛି କଥା ଯେ those people who are able to purchase and who are going to ମୁଁ ମନେକର ଗୋଟେ 2,000 ଟଙ୍କିଆ ମୋବାଇଲ କିଣିବି ସେଠି ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ରେଟ୍ 10% ରୁ 20% ହେଲା କଣ ଫରକ କିଛି ନାହିଁ
ହଁ ସାର୍
Sir,
ବଡ ବଡ
କିନ୍ତୁ
ମୋବାଇଲ 2,000 ଟଙ୍କା 40,000 80,000 ଲକ୍ଷେ ଟଙ୍କାର ମୋବାଇଲ କିଣୁଛି ତା ଉପରେ 10% ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ଥିଲେ ସେ 10,000 ଦଉଥିଲା ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ଏବେ ଯଦି 20% ହେଇଗଲା ସେ କେତେ ଦବ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ 20,000 that is a huge amount. So in order to nullify the government activity, he will that person who is going to buy a mobile phone worth of 1 lakh rupee, he will go to the mobile shop, take the help of higher purchase scheme, and get a mobile phone before budget is implemented.
sir ଗୋଟେ question
हाँ कौन
sir ଏମାନେ ଯଦି ଏକ୍ସପେକ୍ଟ କଲେ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ରେଟ୍ ବଢିବ ତ ସର୍ଟ ପିରିୟଡ ପାଇଁ ଏହାର ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ଟା ବଢିଯିବନି ମାନେ ମୋବାଇଲ ଫୋନ ର ଯଦି କିଛି ଲୋକ କିଣିଦେବେ ଆଗରୁ
ଆଗରୁ କିଣିଦେଲେ ତେଣୁ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ର ବେନିଫିଟ ହେଲାନି ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଯୋଉ ପର୍ପୋଜ ନେଇକି କରୁଥିଲା ସେ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ପଲିସିଟା ସେଟା ଫେଲ ମାରିବ ଆଉ କଣ
ସାର୍ କିନ୍ତୁ ଏପଟେ ତ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ଯେତେବେଳେ ରାଇଜ କରିବ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ସର୍ଟ ପିରିୟଡ ପାଇଁ ମାନେ ଇନକ୍ରିଜ କରିବନି କି ମାନେ କିଛି ପିରିୟଡ ପାଇଁକା ଯେତେବେଳେ ଏମାନେ
ମାନେ
ଆଗୁଆ କିଣିବେ
ସାର୍ ସେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ମୋବାଇଲର ଯୋଉ କଷ୍ଟ ପ୍ରାଇସଟା ଅଛି ସେ କମ୍ପାନୀ ତ ଅଟୋମେଟିକାଲି ବଢେଇ ଦବ କଷ୍ଟ ପ୍ରାଇସଟା ଯେହେତୁ ସର୍ଟ ଟର୍ମରେ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ଅଛି ତାର।
ନା ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କଥା ପିଲେ, ସେ ଯୋଉ ଆଗ କାଳର ଯୋଉ ପଲିସି ଯେ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ବଢିଲେ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଇନକ୍ରିଜ କରିବ, ସେ ଏବେ ସବୁ ନୂଆ ପଲିସି। ଏବେ ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ କହୁଛି, ଲୋକମାନେ ଆମେ କିଣିଲେ 15,000 ଟଙ୍କାର ମୋବାଇଲ ଜଣେ କିଣିଲା, 4G ମୋବାଇଲ ଅଛି, ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ 5G ମୋବାଇଲ ଆସିଗଲା, ସେଇଠି କଣ କରିବ, ଏବେ ଆମେ 6,000 ବି 5G ମୋବାଇଲ ଆସିଲା କିଣିଦିଅ। ପୂର୍ବରୁ ତ ଆମେ 2 ବର୍ଷ ତଳେ 4G ମୋବାଇଲ ଜଣେ କିଣିଥିଲା 15,000 ଟଙ୍କାରେ, ଏବେ 5G ମୋବାଇଲ କାହିଁ 8,000ରେ ଆସିଲା କି 6,000 ଆସିଲା? ତେଣୁ ସେଠି କମ୍ପାନୀ ଦେଖୁଛି, if all the people or most of the people in the rich income group, they have purchased their phones, so the company will launch a new batch of phones, mobile phones, which are less costly. Maybe the technique may be somewhat less efficient. We cannot um, exactly claim it. So in order to capture consumers from different income group, the company will produce different type of mobile phones to cater to the needs of different group of consumers. So not that in order to nullify the budget, if we go to the market to purchase more phones, price of phones may not immediately increase. Maybe the soft demand 100 ki 200 more, so that is other case. ତେଣୁ ମୋବାଇଲ ଫୋନଟା ପିଲେ ସେ ମୋବାଇଲ କମ୍ପାନୀ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଦେଖିଲା ଯେ ସବୁ ଧନୀ ଲୋକ ମୋବାଇଲ କିଣିଦେଲେ, ବଡ ବଡ ମୋବାଇଲ, ତେଣୁ ଗରିବ ଲୋକ ଆଉ ବଡ ମୋବାଇଲ କିଣିପାରିବେନି, ତେଣୁ ସେ କମ ରେଟର ମୋବାଇଲ, କମ ରେଞ୍ଜରେ ମୋବାଇଲ ବାହାର କରିବ ସେ ମିଡିଲ ଇନକମ ଗ୍ରୁପଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ। ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେମାନେ କିଣିଦେଲେ, ତାପରେ ପୁଣି ଲୋ ଇନକମ ଗ୍ରୁପଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ଆଉ ଟିକେ କମ ଦାମର ମୋବାଇଲ ଫୋନ ଲଞ୍ଚ କରିବ। ଏଇଟା ଆଜିକାଲିର ପଲିସି ହେଲା, ତମେ ବି ଏଇଟା ଅନୁଭବ କରିଥିବ।
ହଁ ସାର୍,
ସେଇଟା ହଉଛି କଥା।
ସେ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ଆଫୋର୍ଡେବଲ ହେଲା ଭଳିଆ ଫୋନ କମ୍ପାନୀ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ବନଉଛି।
ତେଣୁ ଘଟଣା ହଉଛି, ଯଦି ମୋବାଇଲ ଫୋନଟା ଅଧିକା ଲୋକ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସକୁ ଆଭଏଡ କରିବା ପାଇଁ କିଣିଲେ, ଗୋଟା ଦୋକାନରେ ଯଦି 100 କନଜ୍ୟୁମର ଯାଇ ପହଞ୍ଚିଲେ, ସେଇ କେସରେ ସିଏ କଣ କରିବ, ଯଦି 8,000 ଟଙ୍କା ମୋବାଇଲ, ସିଏ ଆଉ 200 ନବ, 8,200 ଏଇଟା କରିଦବ। କିନ୍ତୁ ସେ ତ ପ୍ରିଣ୍ଟ ହେଇକିରି ଆସିଛି ତାର ପ୍ରାଇସ୍, ସେଠି ଆଉ କଣ ସେ 200 କାଟିକିରି କଲମରେ ଲେଖିଦବ 400 ନା 600, ମେ ବି ଷ୍ଟିକର ମାରିଦବ, କିଛି ଅସୁବିଧା, ଆଜିକାଲି ସବୁ ସମ୍ଭବ ହେଲାଣି।
ଏଇଟା କିନ୍ତୁ
କିନ୍ତୁ
ବେଶୀ ଫୋନରେ ହିଁ ସାର୍, କିନ୍ତୁ ବେଶୀ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଏଇଟା କେବଳ ଫୋନରେ ହିଁ ୟୁଜ ହଉଛି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଅଦର ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷରେ ଏମିତି ମାନେ ଏତେ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଫଲ କରିବାଟା ଆଉ କୌଣସି ଇଏରେ ହଉନି।
ଗୋଲ୍ଡ, ସୁନା ରେଟ୍ ବି ସେଇଆ, ଧର ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ କହୁଛି ସୁନା ପରଚେଜ କଲା ବେଳକୁ ତାର ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ରେଟ୍ ବଢେଇ ଦବ, ସେଠି କଣ କରିବେ ଲୋକ, in order to avoid paying more tax, so they will make a rush for to purchase gold before the budget is approved. ଏଇଟା ହଉନି କି? ତେଣୁ ଲୋକମାନେ ଆମ ଯାହା ପାଖରେ ଅଧିକ
ହଁ
ପଇସା
ସାର୍, ସେଇ ଟାଇମରେ ଆହୁରି ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ଏକ୍ସାଇଟ୍ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ସେ ଭଲ ଭଲ ଡିସକାଉଣ୍ଟ ଅଫରରେ ପ୍ରମୋଟ କରୁଛି ଗୋଲ୍ଡ।
ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କ ଯାହା ପାଖରେ ପଇସା ଅଛି, ସେ ଖୋଜି ବୁଲୁଥିବେ କଣ ସବୁ ମିଳୁଛି କୋଉଠି ଡିସକାଉଣ୍ଟ, କି କଣ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ରେଟ୍ ଆଗାମୀ ବଜେଟରେ କଣ ହବ କଣ ନାହିଁ। ତେଣୁ ସିଏ ଯାହା ପାଖରେ ପଇସା ଅଛି, ସେ ସବୁ ବଜେଟ ଆସିବା ପୂର୍ବରୁ କିଣିଦେବେ, ସରିଲା। କାରଣ ବଜେଟର ଯୋଉ ଏମ୍ ଟା ଥିଲା ଯେ ରିଚ୍ ପିପଲଙ୍କ ଠାରୁ ଅଧିକା ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ କଲେକ୍ଟ କରିବା ପାଇଁ, that will fail. So the rational expectation hypothesis simply says that if a government policy, if the government step is proved to be unexpected, if the government policy comes as a surprise move, then only that will be effective. ହେଲା, ତେଣୁ ଯୋଉ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ପଲିସି ଗୁଡା ସରପ୍ରାଇଜ ହିସାବରେ ଆସିବ, ଲୋକମାନେ ଜାଣିପାରିବେ ନାହିଁ, that policy will be effective. Otherwise, most of the monetary and fiscal policies, they will be ineffective if people rightly, correctly anticipate such moves beforehand. ତେଣୁ କୌଣସି ପଲିସି ମନିଟାରୀ ପଲିସି ଇମ୍ପ୍ଲିମେଣ୍ଟ ହବା ପୂର୍ବରୁ ଲୋକମାନେ ସଠିକ ଭାବରେ ଯଦି କଳନା କରିଦେଲେ ଇଏ ହବ, ତାହେଲେ ସେ ପଲିସିଟା ଫେଲ ମାରିବ। So this is because it is said that once the government acquires knowledge about a policy, once the public
ସାର୍
acquires,
ସେମିତି କଣ ପଲିସି ଅଛି ଯାର ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ
ଏଇ ଗୋଟା କଥା ମୁଁ
ଯୋଉଟା
କହିଲି
ଫେଲ ମାରିଯାଇଛି?
ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ପଲିସି, ମନିଟାରୀ ପଲିସି, ଯୋଉଟା ଜିନିଷ ମାନେ, କିମ୍ବା ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କଥା ଆମେ କହିବା, ଏଇଟା ଯୋଉ ଆମେ କହିଲେ ଯୋଉଟା ଜିନିଷ ଗୋଟେ କହୁଛି, ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ କହୁଛି ଯେ ଆଗାମୀ ଦିନରେ ଯେ ଯୋଉମାନେ ମୋବାଇଲ ଗାଡି ଯାହାର ଅଛି, 4 ଚକିଆ ଗାଡି ଅଛି, ତାଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ବସିବ। ଯୋଉମାନଙ୍କର 4 ଚକିଆ ଗାଡି ଅଛି ତାଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ବସିବ, କିମ୍ବା ଯୋଉମାନଙ୍କର 4 ଚକିଆ ଗାଡି ଅଛି ତାଙ୍କର ଆଉ ରେସନ କାର୍ଡ ରହିବ ନାହିଁ। Suppose government is making such a step and people expect by any means, if people get information that government is taking such a step, so that a person, if he or she has four-wheeler, maybe cars, so his ration card will be uh, done away with. So what will happen? If he or she has a motor car, he will transfer the ownership immediately to his son or daughter's name, maybe to his servant's name, in order to avoid the um, problem of losing the ration card. এটা ଗୋଟେ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ହବନି କି? ଧର ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ କହୁଛି, ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଗୋଟେ
ହଁ ସାର୍।
ମାନେ ପଲିସି ତିଆରି କରୁଛି ଯେ ଯାହାର କାର ଅଛି ତାଙ୍କର ରେସନ କାର୍ଡ ଆଉ ରହିବ ନାହିଁ। ଧର ମୋର ଗୋଟେ କାର ଅଛି, ମୋର ରେସନ ଅଛି, ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ କହୁଛି। ତେଣୁ ମୁଁ ସେଠି କଣ କରିବି? ଏଇ ପଲିସିଟା ଇମ୍ପ୍ଲିମେଣ୍ଟ ହବା ପୂର୍ବରୁ ମୋ କାରଟାକୁ ମୋ ମିସେସ୍ ନାଁରେ କରିଦେଲି, କି ପୁଅ ନାଁରେ କରିଦେଲି, କି ଯଦି ପୁଅ ମିସେସଙ୍କର କାର ଅଛି ମୋ ଚାକର ନାଁରେ କରିଦେଲି, ତାହେଲେ ମୁଁ କଣ କଲି? ରେସନ କାର୍ଡକୁ ମୋର ରେସନ କାର୍ଡ ରହିଲା, ମୁଁ ବି ଆଉ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ରେଟରେ ଯୋଉ କାର ଥିବା ବାଲା ଆଉ ସେ ଯୋଉ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ଗୁଡାକ ଅଧିକା ଆମର ଯୋଉ ସବସିଡି ପାଉଥିଲେ ଆଉ ପାଉନି ବି, ମୁଁ ବି ପାଇବି। ମୋର ତ କାର ନାହିଁ ଆଉ। I have transferred the ownership of my motor car to my servant or to my distant relative. So I have escaped tax burden. ଆଗରୁ ଗୋଟେ ସିଲିଂ ଲେଜିସ୍ଲେସନ ଥିଲା, ତମର ମନେ ଥିବ, ଗୋଟେ ଥିଲା, ମନେ ଅଛି ସିଲିଂ? ଶୁଣିନ ନା?
ନା ସାର୍, ଫାର୍ଷ୍ଟ ଟାଇମ୍। କଣ ସାର୍
Okay.
ଡିଟେଲ ଟିକେ କୁହନ୍ତୁ, ଜଣା ପଡେ।
So sealing is an important land reform measure. So sealing means the maximum amount of land that a person or an institution can keep with itself. So government has fixed that this is the maximum amount of land that a person can hold in his name. So that was if a person has all the plots of land which are irrigated, then 8 acres is the maximum limit. If land is unirrigated, 16 acre is the ceiling. So ceiling means the maximum amount of land that a person can hold, that an institution can hold with itself. So that means land above the ceiling limit will be taken away by the government for the purpose of distributing it among the landless. ତେଣୁ ସିଲିଂ ଲେଜିସ୍ଲେସନ ଗୋଟେ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଆଣିଲା ଯେ ସିଲିଂ ଗୋଟେ ମ୍ୟାକ୍ସିମମ, ହାଉ ମଚ୍ ମ୍ୟାକ୍ସିମମ ଆମାଉଣ୍ଟ ଏ ପର୍ସନ କ୍ୟାନ୍ ହୋଲ୍ଡ। ଆଗରୁ ଯୋଉ ବଡ ବଡ ଜମିଦାର ଥିଲେ, ଶହ ଶହ ଏକର ଜମି ରଖିଥିଲେ, ଜମିଦାରୀ ସିଷ୍ଟମ ଗୋଟେ ବ୍ରିଟିଶ ସରକାର କଲାନି କି? ବ୍ରିଟିଶର୍ସ
ହଁ
have
ସାର୍।
introduced the zamindari system in 1793 for the collection of revenue, to simplify the collection of revenue without an expenditure. British government has implemented the zamindari legislation. So those people who are collecting land revenue, they were promoted to the status of land owners, zamindars. ଆଗରୁ କଣ ହଉଥିଲା ନା, ଜମିଦାର ସିଷ୍ଟମ ନଥିଲା। 1793 ମସିହାରେ से हमरो गवर्नमेंट ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट कहला जे आमे काहे की why do we employ revenue collectors, why do we employ tahsildars? So it is the people who will come to us to give, to deposit their land revenue. So he has, the British government has introduced the zamindari system. Under
Yes.
this system, those people who were collecting land revenue, they were promoted to the rank of land owners. They became landlords. So they collect land revenue from the farmers, deposit the revenue with the government. So naturally, they get a chance to collect higher rate of rents from the farmers and deposit specific amount with the government, with the British government. So this was, so under the zamindari system, people, zamindars, landlords, they have a huge amount of money. But a majority of farmers have no land. They are landless. So in order to solve the problem, in order to bring equity in the distribution of land holdings, government has taken a implemented a ceiling legislation. So what happened? How the law is implemented? How गोटे law बा कौन से आईन जितने भारत रे हुए केमती हुए?
पार्लियामेंट रे बिल पास हेले
Yes, पार्लियामेंट रे बिल पास हो किए से सब पार्लियामेंट रे मेंबर से समय सब बड़ बड़ जमींदार महाजन राजा महाराजा वंशधर से सब हेले मेंबर. So when such a law is going to be implemented, so before the implementation of the law, they have distributed their land among their family members, among their relatives, even among their servants. Even they have made benami transfers. ଧର ମୋର 100 ଏକର ଜମି ଅଛି, ମୁଁ ଜାଣିବାକୁ ପାଇଲି ଏମିତି ଗୋଟେ ଆଇନ ଆସୁଛି, ସିଲିଂ ଆଇନ ଆସୁଛି, 100 ଏକର ବୋଲେ ମୋର 8 ଏକର ଜମିରୁ ବାଦ ଆଉ 92 ଏକର ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ନେଇଯିବ.
Sorry, sir. Which topic you discussed it?
ଆମର ସେ ସିଲିଂ କଥାଟା ମୁଁ କହୁଛି, ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ରେସନାଲ ଏକ୍ସପେକ୍ଟେସନ ହାଇପୋଥେସିସ ରେ ବୁଝିଗଲା.
Okay, sir.
ଯୋଉ ରେସନାଲ ଏକ୍ସପେକ୍ଟେସନ ହାଇପୋଥେସିସ ରେ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ ଯେ ସିଲିଂ ଆଇନଟା ଯେତେବେଳେ ହେଲା ସେତେବେଳେ କଣ ହେଲା ସେଇ କଥା ମୁଁ କହୁଛି. ସିଲିଂ
Sir,
ଆଇନଟା
who are
ଯେତେବେଳେ
the
ଆସିଲା,
economists who propounded this?
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ,
Sir,
ଶୁଭୁନି
who
ତମ
are
ଭଏସ.
the economists who
ହଁ
propounded
ହଁ
this
ହଁ
theory and what are the aim of that?
ରେସନାଲ
Hello, sir.
ଏକ୍ସପେକ୍ଟେସନ ହାଇପୋଥେସିସ. ହଁ
Uh,
ହଁ
kindly name the economist who propounded this theory.
ଓକେ. So rational
ସେମାନେ କ୍ଲାସିଫାଇ କି ମନ କି ସେମାନେ ରେଟ୍ କଣ ଫିଚର୍ସ କଣ ହେଲା ଏଗୁଡ଼ା ସर ଟିକେ କାଲି
rational expectation normally the idea of rational expectations was first put forth by John Muth. So John Muth was the economist. He has introduced the concept in 1961. So he has got this idea from engineering literature. So by getting this idea from engineering literature, Muth has formed that expectations are rational. That means most of the expectations people form, they are rational. They are adapted from their past experience. So people from past experience know that such and such moves are going to take place or going to be implemented by the government. So if they correctly anticipate a government move, then that policy will be less effective. That policy will not work. This is also known as policy ineffectiveness. Okay. So if people have a perfect foresight, if farms have a perfect foresight, and their expectations are correct, then the policy will be ineffective. So this policy would be effective only when government move is unexpected. But in a country like India, we cannot implement policies without others' knowledge. It is possible in China, not in India. ତେଣୁ ସେଇ କେସରେ ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ସେଇ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ତ ଆମେ ତ ମୋବାଇଲ ଫୋନ କି ଗୋଲ୍ଡ ଉପରେ ଯୋଉ ଟ୍ୟାକ୍ସ ରେଟ୍ ସେଟାକୁ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଦେଲେ ସିଲିଂ କଥାଟା ମୁଁ କହୁଛି। ସିଲିଂ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆସିଲା ତା ପୂର୍ବରୁ ଏଇ ରାଜା ମହାରାଜା ଜମିଦାର ଏମାନେ ସବୁ ମେମ୍ବର ଥିଲେ। ସେ ଜାଣିବାକୁ ପାଇଲେ ଯେମିତି ଗୋଟେ ଆଇନ ଆସୁଛି, ସେ କଣ କଲେ ତାଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ଏକ୍ସେସ ଜମି ଯୋଉଟା କି ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ନେଇଯାଇଥାନ୍ତା ତାକୁ ସେ ବାଣ୍ଟି ଦେଲେ। ଆଉ ପୁଅ ଝିଅ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଶାଶୁ ଶ୍ୱଶୁର ଇଭେନ୍ ଯଦି କାହାର ସେମିତି ଲୋକ ନ ମିଳିଲେ ଚାକର ବାକରଙ୍କ ନାଁରେ କରିଦେଲେ ଜମି। ଯଦି ତଥାପି ଜମି ଆହୁରି ବଢିଲା ବେନାମୀ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର। ରାମଚନ୍ଦ୍ର ଦାସ ସୀତା ଦେଇ ଏମିତି କରି ବେନାମୀ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର ବି ୟାକୁ କୁହାଯାଏ। ସେମିତି କୌଣସି ଲୋକ ନଥିବେ ତାଙ୍କ ନାଁରେ ଜମି ଥିବ। ଯେମିତି ସବୁ ବଡ ବଡ ଅଫିସର ମାନେ ଯୋଉ ଦୁର୍ନୀତି କରୁଛନ୍ତି, କାର କିଣିଥିବେ ତାଙ୍କ ଶଳା ନାଁରେ କି ତାଙ୍କର ଶାଳୀ ନାଁରେ, ଶାଶୁ ନାଁରେ, ଶ୍ୱଶୁରଙ୍କ ନାଁରେ, ନାଇଁ କି ଏଇଗୁଡା। ଇଏ ହେଲା rational expectation hypothesis। ମୁଁ ତ I will send you the materials tomorrow। So ଏବେ ତ ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା we will go on to discuss trade cycles। ତାପରେ ଆମ ପାଖରେ ଆହୁରି କିଛି ସମୟ ଅଛି ନା ନାହିଁ, ତେଣୁ ଆମେ ଦେଖିନେବା ବିଜନେସ ସାଇକେଲ ବା ଟ୍ରେଡ ସାଇକେଲ କଣ, ତାର କଣ ସବୁ why do trade cycles arise and what are the steps that the government may take in order to control the trade cycles। ଆଚ୍ଛା, ଆଉ rational hypothesis expectations hypothesis ଉପରେ ଆଉ କିଛି କଣ କାହାର ଅଛି ଡାଉଟ କୁହ। ସିଲିଂ କଥା ମୁଁ କହିଲି ମନେ ରହିଲା ଟି?
ହଁ ସାର୍।
ଓକେ। ତାହେଲେ ଆମେ ଏବେ ଟ୍ରେଡ ସାଇକେଲ ଦେଖିନେବା କିଛି ସମୟ, କାହିଁକିନା ଆମର ଆହୁରି ବହୁତ କୋର୍ସ ଅଛି। କାଲି ଦିନଟା ଆମର ଲାଷ୍ଟ କ୍ଲାସ, ନାଇଁକି? So trade cycles means they are otherwise known as business cycles। They simply refers to periodic upswings or increase and downswings or fall in economic activities। So they arise, these economic upswings and downswings, they are a regular feature of a market economy, but they do not come regularly। These things, these upswings and downswings, they are not regular। That means they do not come regularly at specific time interval। So rise in money income, rise in employment, rise in price level, they are known as business upswing। Fall in employment, fall in output, fall in income, they are called business downswing। So normally when prices rise, the producers get more profit। Since they get more profit, they try to produce more, they employ more people। So aggregate output, employment and income will rise। So this is the upswing phase of the trade cycles। But during the downswing phase, economic activity will fall, aggregate income will fall, output fall, employment will fall। So that we can simply say that trade cycles are cyclical fluctuations। They come like wave like situation। ଯେମିତି ସମୁଦ୍ରରେ ଢେଉ ଆସୁଛି ଜୁଆର ଭଟ୍ଟା, high tide, low tide, just like that business cycles are cyclical fluctuations in economic activities। They are fluctuations which are recurrent in nature। That means they arise again and again, but there is no specific time period. Remember, they are non-periodic in nature. ଯଦିଓ ସେଗୁଡ଼ା ଅପସୁଇଙ୍ଗ ପରେ ଡାଉନ ସୁଇଙ୍ଗ ଆସିବ, ଯେମିତି ହାଇ ଟାଇଡ୍ ପରେ ଲୋ ଟାଇଡ୍ ଆସୁଛି ସମୁଦ୍ରରେ, just like that upswing will followed by downswing, but they are non-periodic. Specific time period for which there will be
ट्रेड
upswing.
साइकिल कोथि पे यूज करा होछ मार्केट को को मार्केट पे यूज करा होछ
Trade cycles, they are a feature of market economy. They are not found in much strength in the socialist state. So trade cycles are a feature of market economy, competitive economy. So we must have knowledge about trade cycle to know how monetary policy works, how these policies are used to control trade cycles. So trade cycles means inflation or depression. Business upswings are otherwise known as inflation. Business downswings are otherwise known as a depression. Depending on its strength, it may be either called recession. If fall in economic activity is mild, this is called recession. If fall in business activities is very much higher, we call it depression. It is a serious type of situation. So as students of economics, we must have knowledge about trade cycles, why they arise, how they are controlled. This is because they cause changes in macroeconomic variables like output, income, savings, investment, and the like. So we have to. ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ବଢିଆ ତାରଙ୍କର ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଅଛି, ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛେ ପିଲେ demand for sweets increase during Deepavali. Demand for dress materials increase at the time of Dasara. Demand for sweets increase during Ramjan. These are cyclical upswings in demand for goods and services. ଦଶହରାରେ ସମସ୍ତେ ନୂଆ ଲୁଗାପଟା ପିନ୍ଧନ୍ତି, ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କ ଘରକୁ ମିଠେଇ କିଣିକିରି ନିଅନ୍ତି। ରମଜାନ ସମୟରେ ସେମାନେ ସବୁ ଭଲ ଖାଇବା, ମୁସଲମାନଙ୍କ ପରିବାରରେ ସବୁ ଖାଇବା ପିଇବା ମିଠା ଫିଠା ସବୁ ଭଲ ଖାଇବା ହୁଏ, ନୂଆ ଲୁଗାପଟା ପିନ୍ଧନ୍ତି, ନାଇଁକି? ଏଇଗୁଡା ସବୁ ହଉଛି କଣ ଟ୍ରେଡ ସାଇକେଲ, ୟାକୁ ଆମେ କହୁ। So there are 4 phases of trade cycle. Trade cycle ର 4ଟା phase, 4ଟା stage. कौन कौन? गोटे हला prosperity or upswing, business upswing. So prosperity is a state, is a type of situation of the market economy in which income, output, and employment is at the highest level. When the economy reaches highest level of income, output, and employment, this situation is called prosperity or upswing, business upswing. Okay, ବୁଝିଗଲା ପିଲେ? ତେଣୁ ଅପସୁଇଙ୍ଗ ବୋଲେ ଯୋଉ ସମୟରେ ଦେଶର
हाउ मच रेट
ଅର୍ଥନୈତିକ ଅବସ୍ଥା ଖୁବ ଉଚ୍ଚରେ
केते केते रेट सेठी केते रेट मात्रा बढ़ुची सर
कोनटा exact, we cannot exactly quantify how much income, how much growth is achieved in income, how much growth is recorded in output and
बुक
employment.
इंडिकेट
We
को
cannot
बुक तो
quantify.
इंडिकेट को बुक ची
Huh?
30% इन दैट केस बुक रे किछि लेखि जंदे ऑथर लेखि जन 30% केन्स रो ऑथर लेखि जन 30% टू 40% इन द डिप्रेशन पीरियड ए भली जे
ନା this would be wrong to quantify. ଯେ ଆମେ ଯଦି କହିପାରିବାନି ଯେ ଏତିକି ପରସେଣ୍ଟର ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ରାଇଜ ହେଲେ ସେଟା ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ, ତାଠୁ କମିଗଲେ ରିସେସନ, କି ତାଠୁ କମିଗଲେ ଡିପ୍ରେସନ, we cannot define that, we cannot quantify that.
ସାର୍
So we can
ଯଦି
simply
ଆମେ ରିସେସନ୍ ଆଉ ଡିପ୍ରେସନ୍ ଯଦି ଆମେ କାଢି ପାରିବାନି ତାହେଲେ ମାର୍କେଟର ଫ୍ଲୋକୁ ଜାଣିବା କେମିତି ଯେ ମାର୍କେଟ ରିସେସନ୍ ରେ ଅଛି ନା ଡିପ୍ରେସନ୍ ରେ ଅଛି ସରି ଇନଫ୍ଲେସନ୍ ରେ ଅଛି।
okay, okay, good question. If prices are rising day by day. ଆଜି ମାର୍କେଟରେ ଆଳୁ ଥିଲା 10 ଟଙ୍କା, କାଲି ଦେଖିଲା ବେଳକୁ 15 ଟଙ୍କା ହେଲା। ସୁନା ରେଟ୍ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଥିଲା 80,000 ଟଙ୍କା 15 ଦିନ ତଳେ, ଏବେ 91,000 ହେଲା। So these are the signs of business upswings. So price rise is a major sign of business prosperity or upswing. So prices rise means
କିଛି ଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଟର ତ
what do
ଏଇଠି ଇଫେକ୍ଟ କରିବ ସେଠି।
କୋଉ factors କାହିଁକି ଏମିତି ହୁଏ?
ହୁଁ
No, these are the when demand is higher, maybe supply is less. These are the two most important reason behind upswings. Business upswing रे कौन होची
ବଟ
ना
ଅନଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ वहाँ ଅନଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ ସେଠି କଣ କରିବ ସେଠି ଲୋକ।
unemployment is less. Rate of unemployment is very less during prosperity.
ହୁଁ
Prosperity ସମୟରେ unemployment कम, employment बेसी, output ଅଧିକା, prices rise करे. Okay,
ଠିକ ଅଛି ଓକେ
but we cannot say that this much. If prices rise by 20%, we call it prosperity. If rises by 5%, we call it downswing. We cannot do that. If after reaching income level of say 10%, there is a downward fall in economic growth in a country. For 5 years, we have achieved 10% growth or 8% growth. If it now becomes 7%, in the future, maybe जरा हमें
ସାର୍
कहिया
ସାର୍
भारत
ଲଙ୍ଗ ଟର୍ମ
इंडिया
ପିରିୟଡରେ ବିଜନେସ୍ ସାଇକେଲରେ ଆମେ ଗ୍ରୋ କରିଛେ ନା ନାହିଁ ସେଇଟା ଜାଣିବା ପାଇଁ ଆମକୁ କୋଉଟାକୁ ଦେଖିବାକୁ ପଡିବ। ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ଯଦି ଆମେ ପର କ୍ୟାପିଟାକୁ ଦେଖୁଛେ ତାହେଲେ ଯୋଉ ଆମର ବିଜନେସ୍ ସାଇକେଲ ଅଛି କେତେବେଳେ ଡାଉନୱାର୍ଡସ୍ ହଉଛି କେତେବେଳେ ଅପୱାର୍ଡସ୍ ହଉଛି।
ନା ଆମେ ସେଠି ଆଉ ପର କ୍ୟାପିଟା ଇନକମ୍ ନ ଦେଖି ନ୍ୟାସନାଲ ଇନକମକୁ ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ ଏ ବେଟର ସାଇନ୍। National income to judge whether there is economic upswing or downswing. The best thing is to evaluate, to analyze national income, not per capita income, because per capita income is very much affected by population, labor population. से आमे देखिबा पिले last 10 years रे the average rate of growth in our national income is 8%, but the average rate of growth of per capita income is 2%.
ସାର୍ ଯେହେତୁ ଆମର ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ବିଜନେସ୍ ସାଇକେଲଟା ରହୁଛି ଏଇଟା ମାର୍କେଟ ସହିତ ରିଲେଟ୍ କରୁଛି ଆଉ ଆମର ନ୍ୟାସନାଲ ଇନକମକୁ ଇଏ କୋଉ କୋଉ ୱେରେ ଆଫେକ୍ଟ କରୁଛି ଆଉ ଆର ରିଲେସନ କଣ ରହୁଛି?
If prices rise, profit margin of the producers increase. Price ବଢିଲେ ମନେକର ଗୋଟେ ସାବୁନ ତିଆରି କରିବାକୁ ମନେକର ଗୋଟେ ସାବୁନ ତିଆରି କରିବାକୁ 20 ଟଙ୍କା ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ ହଉଛି। ବୁଝିପାରୁଛ, ଶୁଣିପାରୁଛ ପିଲାଟି?
ହଁ ସାର୍।
Sabunte cost of producing a soap is 20 rupee. Price is
Yes sir.
25. Price is 25. So profit margin is 5 rupee.
Yes sir.
If price of the soap, that particular variety of soap comes to be 30 rupee, cost remaining constant, profit will be larger 10 rupee. Cost समान थाई, price যদি বଢିଲା 30 ଟଙ୍କା
ହଁ
ହେଇଗଲା,
ସାର୍
ତାহଲେ profit ହେଇଗଲା 10 ଟଙ୍କା. So since the
ହଁ ସାର୍
business they work for profit, so profit will stimulate them, encourage them to produce more and more soaps. So when more soaps are produced, more people are employed, more raw materials are used. So those who supply raw materials, they get more income. Those workers who are employed in the soap industry, they get more income. So as a result, output, income, they also rise due to a rise in prices and profits. So these are the signs of business upswings. But the opposite happens during business downswing. During business downswing, prices decline. So when prices decline, profit will be less. ଯାହା ଆମେ କହିଲେ 20 ଟଙ୍କା କଷ୍ଟ ଅଫ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ସନ ଗୋଟେ ସାବୁନର 25 ଟଙ୍କା ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଲାଭ 5 ଟଙ୍କା 20 ଟଙ୍କା କଷ୍ଟ ଥାଇକି ଯଦି ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ହେଇଗଲା 22 ରୁପି ପ୍ରଫିଟ କେତେ ହେଲା 2 ଟଙ୍କା ଯଦି 21 ଟଙ୍କା ହେଲା ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଲାଭ ହେଲା କେତେ ଟଙ୍କେ ତେଣୁ ଲାଭ ଯେତେବେଳେ କମି ଯାଉଛି ବିଜନେସ ମାନେ କଣ ଚାହିଁବେ ଆଉ ଅଧିକା ସାବୁନ ପ୍ରଡ୍ୟୁସ କରିବେ ନା ତା ପ୍ରଡକ୍ସନ କମେଇ ଦେବେ so they will think of developing or think of producing a alternative good so that they will get more profit ତେଣୁ ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷର ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ବଢିବ ତାର ସପ୍ଲାଏ ବଢିବ ଯାହାର ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ କମିବ ତାର ସପ୍ଲାଏ କମିଯିବ ବୁଝିଗଲା ପିଲେ ତେଣୁ ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରସ୍ପେରିଟି ଫେଜ ରେ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଆଉଟପୁଟ ଇନକମ୍ so they start rising and when they reach the maximum limit this is called boom but when the economy reaches boom it cannot go further this is because prices are already high so when prices are too much then this will have adverse impact on savings when savings are reduced investment will be less when investment decreases income will be less output will be less employment will be less so this is the falling phase or a recession phase of the trade cycles ତେଣୁ ସବୁବେଳେ ଏମିତି ଯେମିତି ସବୁବେଳେ ଏମିତି ଅପୱାର୍ଡ ଟ୍ରେଣ୍ଡ ଟା ରହିବନି କିଛି ସମୟ ପରେ ସେଟା କମିବ ସେଇ ଯୋଉ କମିବା ଫେଜ ଯୋଉ ଇନକମ୍ ଆଉଟପୁଟ ଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ when they start coming downwards
Sir, ହେଲେ
there is risk
ସାର୍ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଯଦି ବିଜନେସ ଟା ପ୍ରଫିଟ ରେ ଅଛି ଡାଉନୱାର୍ଡସ ମାନେ ଏମିତି ମାନେ ଫଲ ହବାର ରିଜନ୍ସ ଏବେ ଯଦି ବିଜନେସ ସାଇକେଲ ଭଲ ଚାଲିଛି ଠିକ ଚାଲିଛି ପ୍ରଫିଟ ରେ ଚାଲିଛି ତାହେଲେ ଲସ୍ କାହିଁ ଆସିବ
ଆସିବ ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ we have different theories of trade cycles so different economists have given different type of explanations to these questions
ଏଠି ସିଚୁଏସନ ଟି କିଛି କାମ କରୁଛି କଣ୍ଡିସନ ଇଧର ମାର୍କେଟ କୁ ଯଦି ହଠାତ୍ କିନା ଇଏ ପ୍ରାଇସ୍ ଅଧିକ ହଉଛି ଯଦି ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟ ର ସେଠି ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କର ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ କମି ଯାଉଛି ବୋଧେ ଆଇ ଥିଙ୍କ
କମିଯିବ ଏଇଆ ତ ମୁଁ କହୁଛି when prices are rising the businessmen get more profit the traders get more profit so in order to maximize their
ଓ
profit
ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ସେଠି କମି ଯାଉଛି ନା
ନା ନା
ଯାହାହେଲେ
ସେଇଟା
ପ୍ରାଇସ୍
ମୁଁ କହୁଛି
ବଢିଲା
ହଁ ମୁଁ ସେଇଟା I am coming to the point so initially when prices were rising the businessmen traders producers entrepreneurs they find it profitable to produce more so how can they produce more can they print notes themselves no they have to
नो सर
borrow money from banking system ତେଣୁ ଅଧିକା ପ୍ରଡକ୍ସନ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଯାହା ଦରକାର ସବୁ ଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଟର୍ସ land labor capital organization raw materials machines these have to be purchased
they have to borrow money from the bank
have to borrow money from the banks so when system is growing when there is upward movement in economic activity income is earning increasing output is increasing the banks also give more and more loans to the businessmen But when the banks ran out of reserves, when the banks found that they have already depleted their reserves, they start they start or they started taking steps to recollect their loan amount. They asked the businessmen, traders, and producers to repay the loan. So what happens when the businessmen, traders, they repay loans? Their cash reserves is reduced. ମୁଁ 10 ଲକ୍ଷ ଆଣିକି ଲୋନ ଗୋଟେ ବିଜନେସ କରିଥିଲି 2-4 ବର୍ଷ ପ୍ରଫିଟ ପାଇଲି କାର କଲି ମୋ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ପାଇଁ ସୁନା ଗହଣା କଲି ତାପରେ କଣ ହେଲା ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ମାଗିଲା ମତେ ଲୋନ ନୋଟିସ କଲା ଯେ ଲୋନ ଟା ଆଜ୍ଞା ଫେରେଇ ଦିଅନ୍ତୁ ତାହେଲେ ମୁଁ କଣ କରିବି ଲୋନ ଟା ଫେରେଇବି କୁଆଡୁ ଫେରେଇବି ମୋ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀର ସୁନା ଗହଣା ନେଇ ବିକିଦେବି କି ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଆଉ ଦବନି ତାକୁ ନା ନା ସେଟା ମୋର କାରରେ ଯାଇକିରି ଆମର ଅଭ୍ୟାସ ହେଇଗଲା କାର ବି ଆମେ ବିକିବାନି କଣ କରିବା ତାହେଲେ ଇଣ୍ଡଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ତାହେଲେ ଯୋଉଟା ସେ ଗୋଟେ କାରଖାନାଟା କାହାକୁ ଗୋଟେ ଦେଇଦବା ଲିଜରେ ଦେଇଦବା କି ବିକିଦବା ଆଉ ତାହେଲେ କଣ ହେଲା ସେଠି କାରଖାନାଟା ଯେତେବେଳେ ମୁଁ ବିକିଦେଲି ସେଠି ଯୋଉ ଲୋକମାନେ ଥିଲେ they are out of employment so industry is closed employers are thrown out of employment those people who are earning their money from the industry they are now without any money without income so aggregate demand will fall ତେଣୁ ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ତ କେବଳ ମତେ ଋଣ ଦେଇନି ମୋ ଭଳିଆ ଶହ ଶହ ହଜାର ହଜାର ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ ଲୋନ ଦେଇଛି ସେ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କ ପାଖକୁ ନୋଟିସ ଦବ ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ଯେ ମୋ ଟଙ୍କା ଗୁଡା ଫେରେଇ ଦିଅ ମୋ ପାଖରେ ଆଉ ପଇସା ନାହିଁ so when the businessmen they repay their loans they have less cash with less cash they are able to produce less so output income and employment start falling if this is not checked if the government does not take efficient steps then system will fall and fall further and finally it will reach what is called depression so depression is a situation in which income output and employment falls to the rock bottom falls to the
ବଟ୍
nadir
ସାର୍ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ତ ହେଲ୍ପ କରୁଛି ନା ଯୋଉମାନେ ଫାର୍ମସ ଇଣ୍ଡଷ୍ଟ୍ରିଜ କରିଥିବେ ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ଲୋନ ଆଉ
ଏଇଠି
ଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟରେ
ଶୁଣ ସେଇ କଥା କହୁଛେ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଆମେ ସିନା ଏବେ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ହେଲ୍ପ କରୁଛି ଯୋଉଟା ପୂର୍ବରୁ 1930 ପୂର୍ବରୁ ଯୋଉ when classical economist when classical economics was in operation the classical economists they were not in favor of government intervention in each and every field so government intervention was looked suspiciously when government is doing something people would be suspicious at that time ଯେ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟରେ ଯଦି ସରକାର ରାସ୍ତାରେ ମୋରମ ପକେଇଲେ ସେ ଲୋକ କହିବେ ମୋରମଟା ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ କାହିଁ ପକଉଛି କଣ ଗୋଟେ ଉଦ୍ଦେଶ୍ୟ ୟାର ଅଛି ଖରାପ ଉଦ୍ଦେଶ୍ୟ ଆଜିକାଲିର ସିଷ୍ଟମ ଅଲଗା ଆଜିକାଲି ମୋରମଟା ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଆଣିକି କଣ୍ଟ୍ରାକ୍ଟର ଜଣେ ଆଣିକି ତମ ଦାଣ୍ଡରେ ପକେଇଛି ତମ ଦୁଆରେ ଗୋଟେ ଖାଲ ହେଇଛି ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗାଡି ଫାଡି ଯାଉଛି ତମ ଘର ଦ୍ୱାର ନାଲି ପାଣିରେ ଛିଟିକୁଛି କିନ୍ତୁ ତମେ ସେ ମୋରମଟା ଖେଳେଇ ଦଉନ ତମେ କଣ କହୁଛ government will come or government people the contractor will come and he will do the work so why should I do the work and the contractor will make the profit ତେଣୁ ଆମର ସବୁ ଚିନ୍ତାଧାରା ଏଇଆ ଯେ ସେ ତ କଣ୍ଟ୍ରାକ୍ଟର ପଇସା ପାଇବ ବିଲ୍ ପାଇବ ଟଙ୍କା ଲାଭ ପାଇବ ମୁଁ କାହିଁ ସେ ମାଟି ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ମୋରମଟା ଖେଳେଇ ଦେବି ତେଣୁ କେହି କିଛି ଆମେ କରୁନେ ବୁଝିଗଲା ପିଲେ ତେଣୁ ଡାଉନୱାର୍ଡ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟଟା ସେଇଠି ଆରମ୍ଭ ହବ ପ୍ରପର ଷ୍ଟେପ ନେଇପାରିବନି ଧର ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ପାଖରେ ପଇସା ନାହିଁ ଧର ପାକିସ୍ତାନ ଭଳିଆ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ହବ କି ବାଂଲାଦେଶ ଭଳିଆ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ହବ ତାହେଲେ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ତ ପ୍ରଚୁର ପଇସା ନାହିଁ ସେ ଷ୍ଟେପ ଚାହିଁଲେ ବି ନେଇପାରିବେନି ଆମେରିକା ଇଂଲଣ୍ଡ ଫ୍ରାନ୍ସ ରୁଷ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ପ୍ରଚୁର ପଇସା ଅଛି ଧର ଇଣ୍ଡିଆ କେସରେ ବି ଆମ ପାଖରେ ଅଧିକା ପଇସା ଅଛି our GDP is we are the fifth largest economy in the world ବୁଝିଗଲା ବୋଲେ So once the system starts downward, falling downward, it gathers momentum. So if the downward movement is not controlled, the economy will crash. ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ପାହାଡ ଉପରୁ ଟେକାଟେ ଫୋପାଡୁଛେ, ସେ କଣ ହବ, ଆସ୍ତେ ଆସ୍ତେ ଯେତେ ଯେତେ ତଳକୁ ଯିବ ଟେକାଟା ସେତେ ଦ୍ରୁତ ଗତିରେ ଖସିବାକୁ ଲାଗିବ, ଏବଂ ଯେତେବେଳେ ତଳେ ପହଞ୍ଚିବ ସେ ଧୁଲ ଦାଲ କଣ ଗାଡି ମଟର ଯଦି ଥିବ ତା ଉପରେ ଯାଇକି ତାକୁ ଭାଙ୍ଗିଦବ। ସିଷ୍ଟମଟା ଇକୋନୋମିକ ସିଷ୍ଟମ ବି ସେଇଆ, ଡାଉନୱାର୍ଡ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ ଥରେ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ ହେଲା ମାନେ it will gather momentum, and if ameliorative steps, if
ହେଲେ
proper
ସାର୍
steps,
ୱାନ୍ସ ଡାଉନୱାର୍ଡସ୍ ଗଲେ ଆଉ ଥରେ ଅପୱାର୍ଡ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ତ ଆଉ କାହାର ହେଲ୍ପ ନେବାକୁ ପଡିବ?
government help, government, private persons, they always look after profit. When the economic system is in downward trend, profit is reduced, income is reduced. So no private enterprise will come forward to start new industry or restart business when profit is less. ତେଣୁ କୌଣସି ପ୍ରାଇଭେଟ ଲୋକ
ବଟ୍
ପ୍ରଫିଟ
ସାର୍
ଯେତେବେଳେ
ଆପଣ ତ କହିଲେ ଯେ କ୍ଲାସିକାଲ ମାନଙ୍କ ପିରିୟଡରେ ଗଭର୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ହେଲ୍ପ କରୁନଥିଲା, ତ ସେଇ ଟାଇମରେ ଲୋକମାନେ କେମିତି କରୁଥିଲେ?
କଣଟା ସେ ଟାଇମ ମୁଁ ସେ କଥା କହୁଥିଲି, କ୍ଲାସିକାଲ ଇକୋନୋମିକ୍ସ ଏଇଆ କରୁଥିଲେ। ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ସିଷ୍ଟମ ଚେଞ୍ଜ ହେଇଗଲା, କ୍ଲାସିକାଲ ଇକୋନୋମିକ୍ସ ତାକୁ ତ ଆମେ ରିଜେକ୍ଟ କରିଦେଲେ, କେନ୍ସ ରିଜେକ୍ଟ କରିଦେଲେ। ଏବେ ନୂଆ ସିଷ୍ଟମରେ ଆମେ କଣ ହଉଛି ନା, ଗଭର୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ସବୁ ଷ୍ଟେପ, ସବୁଠି ଇଚ୍ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଏଭ୍ରି ଷ୍ଟେପ government is intervening in each and every step. Government is supplying essential commodities, government is making roads, government is starting industries. So what happened at the initial stage of economic development in India? The government has started iron and steel industry, aluminum industry, cement industry. So all these basic industries were started by the government. Once these industries became operational, so ancillary industry started growing. Private persons find that this industry brings more profit. So since they are now able to earn more money, they are able to start new industry. ତେଣୁ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଆଗ ଆରମ୍ଭ କଲା ସବୁ, ତାପରେ ସେ ପ୍ରାଇଭେଟ ଏଣ୍ଟରପ୍ରାଇଜ ଆସିଲା। ତେଣୁ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଡାଉନୱାର୍ଡ ସିଷ୍ଟମ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ ହଉଥିବ ଇକୋନୋମିର, ଡାଉନୱାର୍ଡ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ ଏଇଥିପାଇଁ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଲା। ତା ବିଭିନ୍ନ ରିଜିନ୍ସ ଅଛି, ତାର ଯୋଉ ଥିଓରି ଗୁଡାକ ସବୁ ଅଛି ନା। ତେଣୁ ତାର ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଯୋଉ ଥିଓରି ସବୁ ରହିଲା, Hutter's monetary theory, Hutter was of the view that monetary regions are the main regions behind trade cycles. So during expansion phase, banks create more credit, but when they advance too much credit, they start recovering the loans. And once loans are recovered, the businessman finds no money with them to carry on the production process. So there will be a break in the production process. And once production process is blocked, the system will collapse. So that is the logic of Hutter's monetary theory. So Hayek has developed, F.A. Hayek, he has developed a theory which is known as monetary overinvestment theory. So he argues that when there is excess of investment, then income output will grow, but it cannot grow indefinitely. So in an upswing phase, income output and employment will grow. With increase in investment, there will be more income, more output, more employment. But the system cannot go indefinitely. When investment is affected, gradually the system will have a break and there will be downward movement. Another important economist, Schumpeter, J. Schumpeter, he was of the view that innovations are the main reason behind trade cycles. So he says that when entrepreneurs start innovating, they come in a swarm-like position, swarm-like situation. ଯେମିତି ମହୁମାଛି ଗୋଟେ ଆସିଲେ ଦଳ ଦଳ ହେଇକି ମାଡ଼ି ଆସନ୍ତି ମହୁମାଛି, ସେମିତି ଜଣେ ଗୋଟେ ଇଣ୍ଡଷ୍ଟ୍ରିରେ ଯଦି ଇନୋଭେସନ ହେଲା, others will follow. So innovation will start getting momentum. As a result, income, output, and employee will get more and more. But a situation is developed when too much innovation is made, then innovations cannot sustain. As a result, economy will be in downward phase. So these are the causes of trade cycles and the problems associated with trade cycles. So I will send you the materials tomorrow. So you will go through it, and you may have some questions which we will discuss initially. Then we will finally discuss the monetary policy, fiscal policy, and their effectiveness, which are in your uh, block 7, 6 and 7.
Sir,
ଯଦି
business cycle.
କହିବାର ଅଛି କୁହ, ଆଉ କିଛି କଣ ଯଦି କାହାର ଡାଉଟ୍ ଅଛି କିଛି, ନା ସବୁ ବ୍ୟସ୍ତ ହେଲାଣି, ଡେରି ହେଇଗଲାଣି ବୋଲି?
Sir,
Okay, ଠିକ ଅଛି. So we will have our discussion on monetary policy and fiscal policy issues in our next class.
sir,
I will
ଗୋଟେ
send you.
question.
କୁହ।
Sir, business cycle ଆଉ real business cycle ଦିଟା ଯାକ ଏକା ନା ଅଲଗା?
ଅଲଗା। ଏଇଗୁଡାକ ସବୁ ଯୋଉ ଥିଓରି ଗୁଡା ମୁଁ ଏବେ ଡିସ୍କସନ କଲି, ସେ ହାଇକ୍ସ ଥିଓରି ଗୁଡା ସବୁ, these are traditional business cycle theories. Then
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
what is real business cycle theory? The real business cycle theory simply states that business cycles arise due to real reasons, real factors like technological innovation, technological progress. एटा हम पिले कहूने कि दीटा फैक्टर बिजनेस साइकिल रा पछरे दीटा फैक्टर, गोटा मॉनेटरी फैक्टर आ गोटा हला रियल फैक्टर। मॉनेटरी फैक्टर कोन ना इंक्रीज इन मनी सप्लाई, fall in money supply, these are monetary factors. Real factor kono na increase in investment, fall in investment, technological upgradation, fall in technology or use of backward technology. So these things are real factors. And the real business cycle theory, they argue that business cycles are a result of real factors. Monetary factors though play some role, but they do not have decisive role. The decisive role hela kahara na real factors. ସେଟାକୁ ଆମେ ଟିକେ ଜଷ୍ଟ ଫାଇନାଲି କାଲି ଡିସ୍କସନ କରିବା। ଆଉ ତା ସହିତ ତମର କଣ କଣ ଡାଉଟ୍ ରହିଲା ଯଦି ଆମେ କହିବ ପଚାରିବ, ତାପରେ ଆମେ ଫାଇନାଲ ଚାପ୍ଟରକୁ ଯିବା ଆଉ ହେଲା। ଯୋଉ
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay.
traditional business cycle theory, real business cycle, so data aspect. So thank you all. Thank you.
କ୍ୱାଣ୍ଟିଟି ମ୍ୟାଥମେଟିକ୍ ପଢଉଛନ୍ତି ସବୁ?
ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ ହେଇନି ବୋଧେ 20 ରୁ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ ହବ। ଆଉ
ଏବେ
ଜଣେ ସାର୍
ଇଏ
ପଢେଇବେ ବୋଧେ।
ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ଚାଲୁଥିଲା, ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ଚାଲିଥିଲା ଏଇଟା।
ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ସରିଲା, ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ଚାଲିଛି।
ଓ କେବେଠୁ ଚାଲିଛି ଏଇଟା, ମାନେ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି ଏଇଟା କେବେଠୁ ଚାଲିଛି ଏଇଟା।
ମାର୍ଚ୍ଚ 3 ରୁ
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ।
ଚାଲିଲାଣି। ମାର୍ଚ୍ଚ
ଓହୋ।
3 ରୁ।
କଣ ଗ୍ରୁପ କିଛି ଗ୍ରୁପ ବନା ହେଇଛି? ହ୍ୟାଲୋ।
ହଁ ହଁ ଗ୍ରୁପ ବନାହେଇଛି, ଗ୍ରୁପ ର ଲିଙ୍କ ଟା ବି ଏଇ ଚାର୍ଟ ରେ ହିଁ ଅଛି।
ଚାର୍ଟ ରେ?
ହୁଁ।
କାଇଁ କିଛି ନାହିଁ ଏଠି।
ଇନକଲ ଚାର୍ଟରେ ନାହିଁ? ଏଠି ଅଛି ନା?
କନଭରସେସନ
ଓକେ ମୁଁ ଆଉଥରେ ସେଣ୍ଡ କରିଦଉଛି।
ଯୋଉ ରି ରେଜିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସନ ଏମିତି କଣ କିଛି ଅଛି କି ଏବେ କରିବା ପାଇଁ?
ରି ରେଜିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସନ ଅନ୍ୟ ମାନଙ୍କର ବୋଧେ, ଆମର ନାହିଁ ତ।
କୋଉଥିପାଇଁ କୋଉଥିପାଇଁ?
ରି ରେଜିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସନ ସେମାନେ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଯୋଉମାନେ ଇଗ୍ନୋ ସମର୍ଥରେ ଜଏନ କରିନଥିଲେ।
ନା
ମାନେ
ନାଇଁ
ଆଗରୁ
ଏବେ ଫର୍ମ
ଷ୍ଟୁଡେଣ୍ଟ
ଫିଲଅପ
ହିସାବରେ।
ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟିଂ ହେଇଛି ବା।
ହଁ 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 ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ରି ରେଜିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସନ ଯୋଉମାନେ କରିନାହାନ୍ତି
ସେଠି
କରିଥିବେ ଆଉ।
ସେଇଟା ରି ରେଜିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସନ କହନ୍ତି। ସେଠି ସେଇଟା ଫର୍ମ ଫିଲଅପ ପାଇଁ ସେଇଟା ରି ରେଜିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସନ। ସେଇଠି ମାନେ
କାଇଁ ମୁଁ ବି
ଆପ୍ଲିକେସନ
ଭଲସେ ଦେଖିନି।
ନା ନା
ଅଣ୍ଡର
ଫର୍ମ
ଭିତରକୁ ଗଲା ପରେ ସେ ରି ରେଜିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସନ ହୁଏ।
ହଁ ମୁଁ କହିଲି ଫର୍ମ ଫିଲଅପ ଅଲଗା ହେଇଥିବ, ରି ରେଜିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସନ ଅଲଗା ହେଇଥିବ।
ନା ନା ନାଇଁ ମୁଁ କରିସାରିଲି ଫର୍ମ ଫିଲଅପ ମୁଁ କରିଛି ତ କାଲି ରିସେଣ୍ଟଲି କାଲି କରିଲି ମାନେ ଗତକାଲି।
ଆଚ୍ଛା ଲାଷ୍ଟ ଡେଟ୍ କେବେ ଅଛି?
20 ଏପ୍ରିଲ କଣ ଅଛି କହୁଥିଲେ।
ହଁ ଏପ୍ରିଲ 20ରେ ହିଁ ଅଛି।
ସେ
ଆଚ୍ଛା
6ଟା ପେପର ଦେଇଛି 1 ଇୟର। 3 ପେପର ସେମିଷ୍ଟାରକୁ ଯଦି ଚୁଜ୍ କରିବ ବୋଲେ କରିବ। ହୁଁ ସେଇଟା ସବୁ। ସମସ୍ତେ କୋଉଠାର ସବୁ ଇଏ ଖଲିକୋଟ ଷ୍ଟଡି ସେଣ୍ଟର ନା କୋଉଠି?
ମୋର ଖଲିକୋଟ ଷ୍ଟଡି ସେଣ୍ଟର, ତମର?
ହଁ ହଁ ସେମ୍ ଏଜ୍।
ହେଲେ ତମେ କୋଉଠି ରହୁଛ?
ମୁଁ ରମ୍ଭା।
ଆଚ୍ଛା
ବ୍ରହ୍ମପୁର
ରମ୍ଭା,
ଥିଲା
ଏଇ
ଏବେ
ଯୋଉ
ରମ୍ଭା।
ଆମର ଭଞ୍ଜନଗର ସେପଟେ ରମ୍ଭା?
ନା।
ଆଉ?
ଖଲିକୋଟ ବ୍ରହ୍ମପୁର କେ କଥା
ଆଚ୍ଛା
ବ୍ରହ୍ମପୁର କେ
ବ୍ରହ୍ମପୁର ସେପଟେ ବି ଗୋଟେ ରମ୍ଭା ଅଛି, ହଁ ହଁ ହେଲା ହେଲା।
ବ୍ରହ୍ମପୁର ସେପଟ ନାହିଁ ପୂର୍ବ ମାନେ ବ୍ରହ୍ମପୁର
ହଁ ମ
ସେପଟ ହେଇଯାଉଛି ଆନ୍ଧ୍ରା। ଏଫି
ହଁ ମ
ହେଇଯାଉଛି। ଏପଟ ପୂର୍ବ ମାନେ ଏପଟୁ ଆସିବା ପାଇଁ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ଯିବା ପାଇଁ ସେଇଠି ଗୋଟେ ରମ୍ଭା। ଲୋକେସନ
ହଁ
ପଡୁଛି
ହଁ
ସେଇଠି।
ହଁ ହଁ।
ହଉ ଆଉ ସବୁ କେ କଲେଜ ନାଇଁ?
ହୁଁ।
ହଉ ଠିକ ଅଛି। ଆଉ
ତୁମେ
କ୍ୱାଣ୍ଟିଟି ମେଥଡ
ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ସବମିସନ ପାଇଁ ପଚାରିଥିଲ କି? କାଇଁ ମୁଁ ତ କେହି
ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ
କଲେଜ ମାନେ
ସବମିଶନ
ବରପର
ବା 31st ଭିତରେ ହଉଛି।
ନାଇଁ ସେ
ମେସେଜ ସେଣ୍ଡ
ଖଲିକୋଟ କଲେଜ
କରିଛି
ଖୋଲୁନି ପରା। ମୁଁ ଏବେ
କୋଉଟା
ଦି
କୋଉଟା
ତିନି ଥର ଟ୍ରାଏ କଲେଣି, ଖଲିକୋଟ କଲେଜ କେ କଲେଜ ନା।
ହଁ।
ହଁ ସେ ଖୋଲୁନି ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ସବମିସନ ପାଇଁ ତ।
ଖୋଲୁ ନାହିଁ କାହିଁକି?
ନାଇଁ କାଇଁ ଖୋଲିନି ଏବେ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଖୋଲିନି।
ଏଣ୍ଟ୍ରି କରିଥିଲ ସେ ମାନେ କଲେଜକୁ ଏଣ୍ଟ୍ରି କରିଥିଲ?
ହଁ କଲେଜ ଏବେ ହୋଲି ପୂର୍ବରୁ ମୁଁ ଯାଇଥିଲି ଥରେ। ବନ୍ଦ ଥିଲା,
ହଁ ହଁ
ଦି
ହୁଁ
ତିନି ଥର ପଚାରିଲି ବି ବନ୍ଦ ଥିଲା।
ହୁଁ
ମୋ
ହୁଁ ହୁଁ
ସାଙ୍ଗ ଜଣେ ପଢୁଛି ତ ପଚାରଥିଲି ଏ ବନ୍ଦ ଅଛି ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ସବମିଶନ ବୋଲି। ମୁଁ ପାଖାପାଖି ଏ ମାସ ଆରମ୍ଭରୁ ହିଁ ଇନକ୍ୱାରି କରୁଥିଲି। ବନ୍ଦ
ହୁଁ
ଅଛି
ହୁଁ
କହୁଥିଲେ।
ହୁଁ।
ମୁଁ ଭାବୁଛି କି ଲାଷ୍ଟ ଆଡୁ ହିଁ ଖୋଲିବ ଆଉ ଲାଷ୍ଟ ଆଡୁ ଗୋଟେ 5-7
ଲାଷ୍ଟ
ଦିନ
ଟା
ଥିବ
କୋଉଠି
ଖୋଲିବ
ଏପ୍ରିଲ
ଆଉ।
31st ଅଛି ଲାଷ୍ଟ କଣ ଖୋଲିବ। ସେ ମାର୍ଚ୍ଚ ମାସରେ ମାନେ ସବମିଟ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ମାଣ୍ଡାଟୋରି କହିଛି। ଦେନ୍
ହଁ ବା
ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ଯଦି କମ୍ପ୍ଲିଟ ନ ହୁଏ ଏକ୍ଜାମ ଏଣ୍ଟ୍ରି ନାହିଁ।
ହଁ ବା ମୁଁ ଗ୍ରେଭିଆନ୍ସରେ ବି ପକେଇଥିଲି କାହିଁ କିଛି ରିପ୍ଲାଏ ଆଉ ଆସିନି।
ହଁ ସେ
ଆଉଥରେ ଭାବୁଛି
ରିଜନାଲ
ଆଜି
ସେଣ୍ଟରକୁ ଯିବାକୁ ପଡିବ। ଯଦି
ହଁ
କେହି ମାନେ ଖୋଲି ନାହାନ୍ତି ରିଜନାଲ ସେଣ୍ଟରକୁ ଯିବାକୁ ପଡିବ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱରକୁ।
ଭୁବନେଶ୍ଵର ଯିବାକୁ ପଡିବ।
ହଁ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ଯାଇକି ସବମିଟ କରିବାକୁ ପଡିବ। ଓ ଏମିତି ଖୋଲୁ ନାହିଁ ନାଇଁ ଖୋଲି ଥାଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ସାଙ୍ଗଟା ମୋର ଯାଇଥିଲା ସେ ସେମିତି କେକେରେ ଇଏ ଖଲିକୋଟ ଜଏନ୍ ହେଇଛୁ ମିଶିକି ଇଗ୍ନୋ। ସିଏ
ହୁଁ
କହୁଥିଲା
ହୁଁ
ଓପେନ ହଉଛି ଏସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ମାନେ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରାଟଜି ଟା ଦେଖେଇଲା କେମିତି କଣ କେମିତି ଏସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ଲେଖୁଛନ୍ତି।
ହୁଁ
ନର୍ମାଲ
ହୁଁ
ପେଜ ନା ଏମିତି ବହୁତ ଏତା କରିକି ଦେଖୁଛନ୍ତି ସେ ସବୁ କହିଲା ଓପେନ ହଉଛି ରବିବାର ମଧ୍ୟ ଓପେନ ହଉଛି କହୁଛନ୍ତି।
କାହିଁ ମୁଁ ତ ଟ୍ରାଏ କଲି କାହିଁ ଏବେ ତ ଓପେନ ନଥିଲା। ତମେ କେବେ ପଚାରିଥିଲ କି ଲାଷ୍ଟ ଟାଇମ?
ନାଇଁ ମୁଁ ଯାଇନି ସେ ଯାଇଥିଲା କିନ୍ତୁ ଆମେ ପ୍ଲାନ୍ କରିଛୁ ଏବେ 2-3 ଦିନ ଭିତରେ ଯିବୁ ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ସବମିଟ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ତ।
ହୁଁ ହୁଁ
ହଉ ତମେ କୋଉଠି ରହୁଛ କହିଲ?
ଏଇ ବ୍ରହ୍ମପୁରରେ ହିଁ।
ବ୍ରହ୍ମପୁର ରହୁଛ ନାଇଁ
ହଁ
ହଉ। ଦେଖାଯାଉ ଯଦି ଯିବୁ ଆମେ ଇଏ କଣ୍ଟାକ୍ଟ କରିବୁ ଆଉ। ବୁଝିଲ
ହଁ ହଁ ହଁ
ଦେଖିବି ଆଉ।
ତମେ ଗ୍ରୁପ ରେ ଜଏନ୍ ହେଲ ପରା?
ଗ୍ରୁପ ରେ କଣ ଜଏନ୍ ହେଲି କିନ୍ତୁ ଦେଖେଇଲାନି ମୋର ଶୋ କଲାନି କଣ।
ଆଚ୍ଛା
ଦେଖୁଛି ଟିକେ। ମେଟେରିଆଲ ଛାଡୁଛନ୍ତି ନା
ହଁ
ମେଟେରିଆଲ
ହଁ
ବୁକ୍ ତ ମିଳୁଛି ତେ ସେମାନଙ୍କ ନୋଟ ବେଟର ହବ।
ହୁଁ।
ପଢେଇ ସାରିଲେଣି ନାଇଁ କାଲି ଲାଷ୍ଟ କ୍ଲାସ ଅଛି ଏଇଟା।
ହଁ ମାକ୍ରୋ ର ଲାଷ୍ଟ କ୍ଲାସ ଅଛି।
ଟିକେ କ୍ୱାଣ୍ଟିଟି ମେଥଡ ଲେକ୍ଚର କିଏ ପଢଉଛନ୍ତି ନା ପଢଉନାହାନ୍ତି?
ନା ଏବେ ତ ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ସରିଲା ମାକ୍ରୋ ଚାଲିଛି।
ଡେଭଲପମେଣ୍ଟ ର ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ଇଏ କରିଦେଇଛନ୍ତି କି?
କୋଉଟା କୋଉଟା?
ଡେଭଲପମେଣ୍ଟ ର
ଏଥର
ଏ
ତିନିଟା ହିଁ ଅଛି ନା ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ମାକ୍ରୋ ଆଉ କ୍ୱାଣ୍ଟିଟେଟିଭ୍
ନାଇଁ
ଆପ୍ଟିଟ୍ୟୁଡ।
ସବମିଟ ହବ 6ଟା 1 ଇୟର। ସେ ମେସେଜ କରିଛି ମତେ ତମେ କରିଲେ ହବ ସେମିତି କଲେ ହବ ବି। 6ଟା ଏମିତି କରିଛି।
କାଇଁ
12 ଜଣ
ମାନେ ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟରେ ତ ତିନିଟା ହିଁ ଥିଲା।
ନା
ନାଇଁ
ନା
ନାଇଁ
ମେସେଜ କରିଛି ସିଏ ଗୋଟେ ନା ଲାଷ୍ଟ ମେସେଜ କରିଛି ତମ ପାଖକୁ ମେସେଜ କରିଥିବ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ।
ନା ନା ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ଯୋଉ ପେଜ ରହୁଛି ସେଥିରେ ତ ତିନିଟା ର କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଥିଲା। ଯେ ଫାଷ୍ଟ ମାଇକ୍ରୋ ର ତାପରେ ମାକ୍ରୋ ର ତାପରେ କ୍ୱାଣ୍ଟିଟେଟିଭ୍ ଆପ୍ଟିଟ୍ୟୁଡ ର।
ଫାଷ୍ଟ
ନାଇଁ ନାଇଁ
ସେମିଷ୍ଟାର କଥା କହୁଛ ତମେ?
ହଁ ଫାଷ୍ଟ ସେମିଷ୍ଟାର ର।
ସେମିଷ୍ଟର
କିନ୍ତୁ ମେସେଜ କଣ ଆସିଛି ତମ ପାଖକୁ?
ନା ମେସେଜ ତ କିଛି ଆସିନି।
ମେସେଜ କିଛି ଆସିନି ଆସିଥିବ ନା ନର୍ମାଲ ଗୋଟେ ନର୍ମାଲ ମେସେଜ
ମାନେ
କରିଥିବେ
ଏସ ଏମ ଏସ୍ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ନା ମେଲ କହୁଛ?
ଏସ ଏମ ଏସ୍ କଥା କହୁଛି।
ନା ନା ଏସ ଏମ ଏସ୍ ମୋ ପାଖକୁ ଆସିନି। ମୋ
ହଁ
ପାଖକୁ
ହେଇପାରେ ସେମିତି ୱାନ ସେମିଷ୍ଟାର ତମେ ସବମିଟ କରିଦବ ବେଟର ହବ। ଆଉ
ହଁ
ହଁ ମୋ ପାଖକୁ ମେସେଜ ଆସିଥିଲା 6ଟା ପେପରକୁ ଲେଖିବା ପାଇଁ ଏସ ଏମ ଏସ ରେ।
ଆଚ୍ଛା
ସେଇଟାକୁ ମୁଁ ସେ କଲେକ୍ଟ କରିଦେଇକି ଅନଲାଇନ କଲେକ୍ଟ କରିଦେଇକି
ସେଟା